What is going on, everybody? It is episode 626 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am surrounded by a host of guest hosts today, all here to help me. Straight across, though, first off, is Sara.
Hey, guys, it's Sara, a.k.a. Cast Brew Coffee Lady.
Would you prefer to go by Cast Brew Coffee Lady from now on? It feels derogatory, but I can call you Coffee Lady if you want.
It's grown on me. Yeah, I don't mind it.
Hence the handle Lady Sells Coffee.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I've embraced it.
Perfect. And to my right...
Hi, my name is Phil Labonte. I sing for the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary.
Yes, he is. And how you doing today?
I'm doing quite well.
Doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Star Wars, so you're going to be bad here in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's
it's going to be depressing.
That's about what's going to happen.
Star Wars is all about making people sad.
These days, it feels like that's about the case for it. But when do you think that started for you? Like, when did it really start going downhill for you?
So it was The Force Awakens was a bum out just because of the fact that it wasn't like an original storyline. It was essentially just a rehash of The Force Awakens, and Rey was, there was no challenge. She won every encounter from like right off the bat. She was like, she entered the game level 20 and just slaughtered everybody right to the end.
Could be that way in my life.
So I didn't like that, but the thing that really sealed it for me was the second one, The Last Jedi, where Luke died of being tired.
Yep, same. That's what did it for me too.
So we're going to talk about that. So here's the thing, guys. We've got Acolyte review coming for you on Thursday, but we are going to talk about how the marketing team behind the Acolyte is looking to sink this ship before it even gets started. And someone who's going to help with that to my left, he's on his laptop. Kellen, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I am on my laptop. I'm also the Cast Brew Coffee Lady and singer of All That Remains. I'm looking at the wrong camera.
Bro, you don't have to look at any camera. You can look wherever you want.
That's just a straight up.
There's no rules here for that. Like, I mean, people actually ask that question a lot. They're like, where do you want us to look? And I'm like, the media trained people ask that question, the ones who do a lot of appearances and stuff. I'm like, you can look wherever. You can look at her, you can look at me, you can look at the camera. But most of the time, I find it off-putting if they're looking at the camera when you're trying to have a conversation back and forth. The only time I ever look directly in the camera usually is when we're doing the outro segment, or if I have something that's particularly annoying me. Like yesterday, I saw Lydia made a post about what word is worse, moisturizing or nourishing. And I maintain that nourishing is the worst word in the history of the English language because it's always used by dorks online who want to proselytize about health foods.
Sounds like you need some nourishing.
I like that one.
Well, it got brought up because there was some guy talking about nourishing your male friendships, which was the most undignified topic I've ever read in my entire life.
Should never be used in that context.
No, but nourish. Every time I read the word nourishing, it's always attached to some granola food person who wants to tell you how to live your life. And
Nourish your body.
Yes, I'm angry. You just said that, and my blood pressure just skyrocketed. So, that's not that we're getting off topic here, but we got a bunch of stuff to get into today, guys. But before we get started, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel? If you have not subscribed here yet already, please and thank you. Share this video with your friends and the people that you don't like. Share it with everyone so that they can share it with their friends and the people that they don't like so that they can hopefully come and subscribe. It really is the best way to help this show grow is by helping us expand our subscriber base. So thank you for that. Also, remember, all Super Chats $20 and over. We will interrupt the discussion and we will read those Super Chats right then and there. It'll be a little bit harder today without Mary here. It's always a little bit more difficult to try and figure that out as you go, but she is doing Megyn Kelly today, so she will be back on the show tomorrow, and you should look out for her appearance after the show today, not before. I don't know when it comes out, but don't do it beforehand. Stay on the show today. So what are we going to talk about? Well, first things first, the Acolyte has come out, and look, we're going to be reviewing The Acolyte on Thursday. We're going to have a review for episodes 1 and 2, and then depending on how that video does, we will probably review all the episodes after that. Supposedly, they're all, after the first 2 are 30 minutes long, which is eminently, manageable, even if it is unbelievably boring. I finished the first episode last night, and I fell asleep during episode 2, so I have to go back. It was 4 a.m, so it could have been the time.
Did they drop it all at once?
No. Episodes 1 and 2 just came out, and then it's going to be weekly after that. So, but that's not what we're going to talk about. Today we're going to talk about the fact that the marketing department is out to ruin this show before it even gets off the ground because they're not focusing on the characters. They're not focusing on the story. They're not focusing on anything other than the fact that it is, quote, the gayest Star Wars ever made. And it's essentially what they're talking about. This is a leading question from an interviewer because I think deep down the people who work for these media companies hate them every bit as much as us here in the non-mainstream media seem to hate celebrities these days because they want it to fail. So we're going to talk about that. I also want to go through this interesting thread that I found on Twitter. I guess it's X now, which it really is. Basically asking, like, what's an actor that you like their work, but you can't stand because of their political opinions? And I want to talk about some of these names because they seem to actually come from across the spectrum, which was kind of interesting, but also get everyone's perspective about whether they think that actually matters when it comes to watching media. Do you actually care? You know, does that affect your enjoyment of an actor's work if they have insane beliefs? So we're going to talk about that. Also, X has confirmed that they are going to allow corn on their website. I thought that was ridiculously interesting considering it was already there all the time. You can pretty much see it under anybody with a large following, you're going to be bombarded with that type of content underneath. There's a reason why nudes in bio is a meme now.
There's a reason you can't scroll on this show when you're on X.
I can only imagine how much worse it's going to get now that it's like gotten the green light. It was so bad already, and now that it's got a green light.
So we're going to talk about that. We got a $20 one here from Heavy Burn Man. Says, Gay month is dead and dinosaur month is here. Happy Jurassic June. My favorite dino is Ankylosaurus. What's all y'all's? Anybody here have a favorite dinosaur?
I feel like I used to when I was a kid.
Okay.
No, you know what I really liked was the thing the T-Rex fights in like Jurassic Park 3. The other really big T-Rex looking dinosaur.
Allosaurus?
Whatever that is. Is that what it is?
Maybe.
It's
I
like
know
another...
an Allosaurus, I think an Allosaurus is like, it's a similar one. You know, it's got like useless front legs and like walks on its hind legs.
I mean, they all kind of have the useless front.
No, they're like they're like
nubs.
four-legged dinosaurs that have, you know.
Haven't you ever seen that, like, that they did the robot thing where they turned your arms into T-Rex arms, and it restricts the movement? You can't do anything because their arms really are kind of useless. So we're Stegosaurus. For no reason whatsoever.
Spinosaurus, that's what it's called.
How do you guys remember all these dinosaur names? I'm like T-Rex or Velociraptor. That's
seen
about
that
it.
meme where like boys have like one of 4 personalities, and it's like
Fireman.
Yeah, it's like space, dinosaurs.
Roman Empire.
No, they're too young. No, I know what you're talking about. It's like fireman, cop, dinosaurs, trucker.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Gotcha.
It's like
Okay.
trucks.
It's like guys will pick one of these things and
Dinosaur.
it'll be their personality for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
That's basically true for the most part, you know. I mean, I found skating at 12, and that's still pretty much my entire identity. So, you know, you find something you like and you stick with it. It's the point. So we're gonna get into all that. We got a bunch of other stuff to get into. So if everybody here is ready, we will go ahead and get started. Kellen, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm ready.
Phil?
Let's go.
He didn't even like give me like a half answer today. Sometimes you start and stop on the.
No.
He's good.
Let's go.
All right, first things first. There's some good news today. It's always nice to have good news. Red Lobster is in the middle of bankruptcy, but Flava Flav is out to save them. If you saw this, he went to Red Lobster and bought the whole menu. See, I love food news. Food news is my favorite part of this show. I've never in my life been to a Red Lobster.
Really?
Me neither.
Never in my life. I don't eat seafood.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's literally no reason for me to go to a Red Lobster. It would be like a vegan going to a.
They don't even have.
Vegan can go to a
do
steakhouse.
Do they have non-seafood options?
I have no idea. I've never been.
Yeah.
What do you get there?
So, try it out.
The endless shrimp. You can never go wrong with that. It's always a home run. I like how a lot of people said that the reason they went bankrupt is because the endless shrimp, and so they were just losing too much money on it.
Yeah, like I was thinking about it because so there was like a restaurant down here that used to be open, right by the castle.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think any restaurant in history has ever fumbled the bag as bad as they did, because theoretically that could have been like this is in like a residential area. It's not really an optimal location for a restaurant because it's not really off of a main road, right?
No,
off a
I think it's a
highway,
pretty good
kinda.
spot actually, because
They had to
how
put that huge
touristy
sign.
this area.
They had to put that huge sign out there so people would know that it was there to get off on
Right.
the exit, right?
I mean, especially before like Google Maps and whatnot. Maybe I'll agree, but I think it's actually a pretty good spot because you're kind of away from all the heavy traffic of the tourist area that we're in, but we're still like a stone's throw.
But what I thought was like the fact that the company was located like right by there, it should have been like the after work hangout for every employee here, and it just never was because the hours were like it would be open some days and other days it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like not like one Friday it would be open, the next Friday it would just be closed for no reason. There wouldn't be like a sign on
close
the
at
door.
like 6, 7 o'clock too on like a Friday.
And that's what like the
I think we tried to go there.
Yeah. A couple of times. There's like a restaurant over here called like Boxcar that's only opened till like 8 p.m. and I'm like, how do they even make their money? Like most people are, done with work at 6. Maybe they go out to eat, but a lot of people would go out with their friends later than that.
I think it's because we live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
Though.
I've never been to a Red Lobster and I have no desire to go. So
you should go get
we
the
should
endless
go
shrimp.
before they close.
There is more food news, however, though. Did you guys see the fight that broke out at Chipotle? No. Like everyone's mad at Chipotle right now because people are being forced to record videos on their phone of themselves being given their portions because Chipotle was like skimping on portions. So what would happen is like they would notice that people would when they would start recording them, they would actually give you the amount you're supposed to get in your food. But that's not what this is. This is just a bunch of hooligans, I guess, or hoodlums, bad people that are out to stop people from having a good day over at Chipotle. Throwing literal food fight in Chipotle.
What is this over?
Over beans and rice.
That's my question. What the hell did they do? Did they serve you the wrong food?
It must have been some BS. This reminds me though of you guys remember Waffle House Wendy?
Yes, of course.
That's iconic.
Well, I mean, but the thing is like Waffle House, that's what you expect there. It's part of the ambiance is that at any moment you could be eating your waffle and then a chair just kind of flies by your head.
Yeah.
Stuff gets crazy or can get crazy at Waffle Houses. I never want to expect that when I go to dinner, or go to breakfast or whatever. Like, I don't want that. I want to eat my, hash browns and stuff in peace.
Yeah, I mean, depends on the person.
We
right?
joke about her, but I'm pretty sure she got fired.
She did.
Yeah,
she did.
So it's like, we joke about her being awesome. What you said, Waffle House Wendy.
Yep.
But like if any of these Chipotle employees stopped these people from rioting, essentially, they're done.
Well, somebody said pull her ankles out and introduce her head to the back of the table. It's like you're going to jail if you do
she
that.
could die. I mean,
you're going to jail if you do that. You
Yeah.
can't just do that.
Honestly, too, if they had like a full burrito, imagine getting hit in the head with that. It's like it's not. You'll be all right, but it's gonna hurt.
Frozen burrito might knock you out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can't have nice things anymore.
I've never been.
It's one of the frustrating things is like if she stepped on someone else's hand, like that was getting kind of buck wild, and then they went at it, nobody would say anything about that. But if someone stands up and says, "Hey, knock it off," and punched her for it, everyone's gonna be like, "You're wrong for that. This is a problem."
Yep.
Yeah, the
That
fact
is
that
a problem.
no one is intervening at all.
Yeah, no one intervenes, and I understand why no one intervenes because the risk is high. But the fact that if you intervene, it is likely you are going to be cast by the bad guy or cast as the bad guy by the other people around.
Or sued.
Unless like she stepped on your food and you're like, well, you stepped on my food. I feel like that's the only way that someone would be, like people would accept it, and that's kind of a bad thing. Like people should be taking the side of the person that's like, hey, knock this garbage off because I want to eat in peace.
Even then, what happens is the clip gets cut down, and you don't get to see where it started, and then you just look like the bad guy anyways. So intervening is now always kind of a bad choice.
It's a bad decision, man, and it sucks because that's part of what keeps society fairly chill and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now by not doing anything, this is just getting worse and worse and worse. Like there's this theory I remember, like when it comes to like disciplining kids, and they're like, oh no, like you don't want to use the stick, you want to use the carrot because you want to reward good behavior, you don't want to punish bad behavior. But it's only made everything worse. Like you see one of these videos every day now. Of people freaking out at fast food establishments.
So I don't have any kids, and I'm not the guy that's going to tell people how they should raise their kids, right? But I don't know that peaceful parenting is actually better for society, because you look at all the peacefully parented children that we have right now. We have a generation of the most peaceful parented kids ever, and they can barely call Pizza Hut and order a pizza. If it wasn't for DoorDash, they'd starve. Like they can't do anything. The world freaks them out. They're literally a whole generation where their parents have become the snowplow parents, where they just make the world flat for them. They can't deal with anything.
Actually,
and it's like
this came up yesterday.
What was that?
When we were talking about the Matt Walsh was making people fight over the cart corral thing again about putting your cart back, and it was in reference to like moms like not wanting to bring the cart back because they don't want to put their children at risk. And I said, you are now the snowplow parents that we can blame. You were the street lamp kids. You were the ones who were told to come home when the lamp when the lamp lights came on, and now you're the. But I guess a lot of people think the world is scarier now.
The argument against any kind of physical punishment was you're going to make your kids worse. They're going to make them. They're going to grow up and be broken children. Well, it's clear that not doing that does not guarantee that they don't grow up and become broken children anyways. And so they might be broken children in a better society if I don't know. I'm not saying that you should. I'm not making any kind of prediction or what's the word you're looking for? Prescriptions. But I don't know that the idea that peaceful parenting and hands-off kind of make sure that everything is taken care of for your children, I'm not so sure that that's actually working the way that the proponents say that it does.
And I think we're seeing the results for sure. I agree with you.
These kids, like they actually have no, like, even if you're playing devil's advocate, they don't know how to react in these simple situations. It's like you asked for chicken, they gave you steak. They truly feel like it's the end of the world. Like there's no they've never had to like get through hardship. Yeah, I mean, I just think they're broken.
I don't
Their
think
brains
it's
are broken.
necessarily entitlement. It's that they've never been exposed to any type of bump in the road that actually makes them kind of have to steel their resolve and figure it out, which is a very big part of life.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the best ways to do that is to, like, when you're a young adult, is to travel on your own, especially outside the country where things aren't as easy to figure out as they are if you're traveling here. You have to come up with solutions to problems offhand sometimes, especially if it's like a country with a language you don't speak, things like that. So
that was kind of my upbringing. Like once every few years, we'd go to Iran, and like in the middle of the day, the AC would just go out at like peak heat, and everyone was like, "It's just normal." Like things like that. They make you more resilient and happier overall, I think.
All right. Well, we can get the kids a job, Kellen. I think you're going to have to explain to people. There might be a lot of people here who don't actually know what Roblox is. But I want to show everyone this because now, if you play Roblox, you can actually get paid to work at IKEA in the game.
Yeah, I don't know how they're making money doing this.
Yeah, you got to break this one down for me.
Furniture store IKEA will be paying people $13.15 an hour to work in a virtual store it's opening inside Roblox. The coworker game, as it's called, will let players experience working in IKEA's virtual universe. The company said fans will be able to live their home furnishing dreams and get paid for it with a limited number of paid roles available.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to make money off this because Roblox is a free game and it's basically just a collection of community-made mini games. So like, I don't know how they're making money. That being said, this is kind of funny, like how Tim talks about in the future, like your job will be all in VR and your boss will be a carrot. I'm like, oh, it's here.
Well, that's what it is.
It's here. Your IKEA boss could be like a unicorn and you're showing up for your virtual IKEA job.
It says the immersive experience gives players the opportunity to experience IKEA's unique approach to careers with non-linear career journeys as the norm and lateral moves across departments are commonplace. It's their first foray into mainstream gaming. Well, I mean, I didn't really ever expect to see IKEA in any type of gaming, let alone mainstream gaming. I don't know how you make money doing something like this.
I assume they're gonna sell like skins or like clothing options your character can wear. IKEA is interesting though, so because I assume then you have a virtual house too, because IKEA is like furniture and furnishings. So maybe that's part of it.
So it says there are paid shifts on offer from 10 successful applicants. They'll help customers and get promoted to move departments working in different sections of the store, like the showroom and the bistro. That's where you get the meatball. Helping people choose their furniture and even serving meatballs. There you go. So you can sell people furniture in-game, and you'll just have to work on your skills to actually hawk the merchandise.
I wonder if you have to build it. Like actual IKEA furniture.
Gosh.
That's the hardest part. You'll end up with a drawer full of Allen wrenches and furniture that's like half put together.
So
a real drawer?
Huh?
Or a virtual drawer?
No, it's a virtual. It's a virtual. You'll have to virtually put together your furniture.
Imagine losing like the Allen wrench in your virtual apartment and you can't build the thing you just bought from virtual IKEA.
What are you supposed to? Well, that's the thing. We were talking yesterday about the concept of junk drawers, and I didn't realize till like this year that I met people that had never heard of having a junk drawer in your house. It's like that's where people like skaters have Allen wrenches all over the place because it's part of the equipment used to maintain skates. But other people have a junk drawer that's just full of Allen wrenches that are used to, and the really cheap wrenches that are used to put together the furniture for all of the stuff in
Taco
IKEA.
Bell sauce packets.
That's
Instruction manuals.
That's exactly what we said yesterday. We were saying yesterday, it's like for some reason you put all of your Taco Bell sauce packets in there, and then 20 years later you're like, I wonder if it's still good. And it's not.
We'll never use them.
Don't do it.
We'll never use
Right,
them.
no.
Great in concept, not in execution.
My junk drawer has less condiments and more things like different screws and nails and random bolts and.
I feel like a junk drawer could tell you a lot about a person.
Well,
yeah, probably.
Every place I've ever lived, the first thing I do is I go out and buy a bag of rubber bands and put them in the junk drawer.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and then under the junk drawers where you put all of the loose cords that you think you'll use one day that you usually don't end up using.
Either
the loose
that
cord
or,
cabinet.
Yes.
Either that or all the lids to your pots and pans that the pot and pan doesn't exist anymore, but you still have a bunch of lids.
For some reason.
That stuff stays, those stay close to the pots and pans, where under mine I have like stuff for my dog. So
Okay.
which is
Our
a good
junk
thing.
drawer was
pet stuff is a good
always
thing.
in the kitchen. So,
Okay. There you go. All right. I want Phil to see this. Did you see the scene of Will Smith from Bad Boys Ride or Die, Phil? Of him doing the first person shooting?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of this?
It's cool. I don't know how it's going to be when it
Executed in film?
Yeah, when you actually see it in context.
Here's
it looks neat.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he has fairly good technique.
Sure, yeah.
He punches out from the chest. His hands his
What is he supposed to be doing?
So what's happening is he's
Holding
both
a gun.
cameraman and shooter in this scene. So here, guys, can check this out. Yeah.
I think he did a great job.
Those types of shots can't be used excessively in a movie, otherwise it's too jarring. If you ever saw the movie Hardcore Henry,
that's what I was just going to say. That's what it
Henry's
reminds
great,
me of.
and it's a classic, but it is also you only want to see it there. Like,
exactly.
It's off-putting when you see that stuff too much in an actual movie. You know,
it breaks the flow of like if the rest of the camera work is really smooth and you're watching great dolly shots or crane shots or anything else that's smoother, and then you get that kind of it's supposed to increase the pace and the speed of that scene. It's supposed to make it feel more frenetic, which it probably will. It will do its job.
I think that ironically, it actually takes you out of the movie.
Because it's so vastly different from what you're used to seeing.
Because it's so different from watching the story. It's like most of the time when you're watching a movie, you feel like you're watching it. You don't feel like you're the person doing it. So when they put you into that perspective of the actual person in the movie, it
turns into a first-person shooter.
Yeah, it takes you out of the story, and it takes your immersion out, and it breaks.
Interesting. I feel the opposite way.
Do you think so?
I actually really enjoy when they do like the point of view shots for movies. I feel more immersed in the film.
I like playing video games like that. Like I love first person shooters. I don't even like I prefer a first person game to a third person game, even like driving games and stuff like that. But when I'm watching a movie or something like that, or a drama or whatever, I don't want to feel like it's like the person there is the character.
I also like they're like narrating the action scene, like pop, 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 to give the audio cues to the stuntman on when to move and stuff like that, which is really, really good. So I was gonna skip this movie because I just Bad Boys for Life was fine, but there was nothing about the trailer for Ride or Die that really, really spoke to me. But a couple of people whose opinions I trust have said that it's pretty good. So even if we're not going to review it, I might go see it this weekend. It does come out this weekend. There was this crazy clip of like they were at some promotional event and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence walk out on stage, and Will Smith basically had to like carry Martin Lawrence, like Martin Lawrence had to like hold his arm, like he's either hurt or something's going on. Very hard to promote like an action movie if one of the stars looks like he needs to be in a wheelchair. But it looks good. So beyond that, I want you guys to see this trailer. So there's a new movie coming out. I love how they do the false advertising, kind of like how when Man of Steel came out, they said from the producers of The Dark Knight, which just means that Christopher Nolan was producing the film, but not necessarily writing or directing. This is from the studio that brings you John Wick, which just means that it's Lionsgate. But I want you guys to watch this. It's a new movie that's called The Killer's Game, starring Dave Bautista, Sofia Boutella, Terry Crews, and more. And outside of a few gripes I have about the CGI, I think this is a fun concept, though I do believe that the trailer is a little bit too long, so I'd like you guys to watch this and then let me know what you think about it. So here we go.
How did you end up here?
Work.
What do you do?
Retirement planning.
You should smile more often. It suits you.
That's only allowed now if you're talking to guys. You can't tell a woman to smile more, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You're not allowed.
I'm gonna live till I die.
There's only 2 ways out of the killer's game, Joseph. You walk away clean, or you go out on your back.
Joe, are you okay?
Live until I die.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news, Joe. It's terminal.
How long do I have?
Best case, 3 months.
I don't want Maisie to see me fall like that.
The blues I lay low.
What brings you to my door?
I need a contract executed.
Who do you want retired?
Me.
I've thought about doing this for years. You killed my father. This way, I kill you and get paid.
$2 million for Joe Flood. Daddy's got to go to work.
Gets me wet.
Whatever turns you on.
Oh, I'll make 'em stay low.
Oh, Flood, thank God. There's been a mistake. They switched your scan with another patient. You're not gonna die, but you might want to get your eyes checked.
I'm gonna live.
I'm canceling the contract.
You think this changes anything? I'm calling in every hit in Europe, you hear me?
Yeah, well, you tell them to pack light. Because they won't fucking be staying long.
What is going on, Joe?
Maisie, I'm a hitman.
What? You kill people?
That's what an assassin is, yeah. Did he just hit me with a motorcycle? This is disrespectful.
Do you think I killed him?
I hope so. Ain't no money worth this shit.
Don't hate the playoffs. Hate the game.
I got you.
Until I
We killed the fucking doctor, too. Have you had your eyes checked?
Okay. All right. Anything with Terry Crews in it these days, I'm all on board with, and I think Dave Bautista is probably the best of the wrestling actors that there is today.
I was gonna say, when did he become the it man of Hollywood? He's in everything now.
I mean, I think that he got really good reviews when he did Skyfall. Well, first Skyfall and then Guardians with James Gunn and stuff like that. And then he did, what was the one he did a couple of years ago? He did the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Wasn't he in Dune?
And he was in Dune. So he's, I mean, he's got the size. He's also got a really, really unique look about, like, he's got a very, very unique appearance, which kind of, you know, it plays with the fact that he has a very, very imposing physique most of the time. So the CGI blood is a problem. That's my only real critique, is like when they started with John Wick, they were at least using squibs in some of those shots, and you'd actually see like blood squibs go off, which makes all the difference in the world. Go watch old RoboCop if you want to understand what I'm talking about, just how much of a difference that makes. But now so much of what they try to show and do is so hard, would be impossible to do in camera like that. But the concept has kind of a predictable twist. But I'd want to ask, like, do you think that exposing that part of it, that he's not sick, actually ruins the movie, or should they have saved that for the film?
Well, since they did expose it in the trailer, that means that I'm expecting a lot more twists.
Like another twist towards the end.
Right.
He actually is sick at the end. Yeah.
Because if not, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that I agree with you. That trailer was way too long. There's a lot they could have left out.
Yeah.
Like halfway through, I was already sold and hooked and
Yeah.
going to watch the movie.
All trailers are pretty much too long these days, most of the time. Like I'm much happier with like a minute and 50 to 2 minutes and 10 seconds at most. The point at the beginning there where they're trying to establish his relationship with like the girlfriend, I guess kind of matters, but I don't think you even needed to include that in there. I think all you had to do is include the part about him being supposedly sick and then not being sick, and then suddenly it's like, oh crap, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think that's enough to hook people on it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they could have cut it. Honestly, even without that part, I thought it looked cool, just like an action.
The top comment says, "This looks terrible and amazing at the same time," which is kind of how I felt about it.
Probably very cheesy, but entertaining.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the stuff I liked. I liked the beekeeper. I liked the bricklayer, and just about everything that came out like that.
I feel like because of the fact that it's got the John Wick kind of tone and stuff, it's gonna get people in the door, or some people in the door, but I don't think that it'll have the same kind of dramatic effect on the audience. Because the thing about the thing that made people like John Wick right off the bat, that started the buzz for it, was the bullet counting, right?
Yeah.
Like, they knew when to reload. The editing was meticulous. Every time they reloaded, the count was the same, and there were dudes, believe me, there were dudes counting. They were making sure. And so that made like all the gun guys be like, this has got to, it's really accurate and stuff. Without, like you were talking about, the realistic effects or the practical effects and stuff like that, without that to make it compelling, it's just something that's kind of like.
And that worked for the first one, but by part 3, he's kicking people with horses, and
it doesn't have the thing that it did.
But it has Keanu, which is a big selling point for most of them. And we were talking recently about how he's basically a superhero by part 3 anyways, and you can throw him off a building and he seems to be perfectly fine, which isn't really how it's supposed to work. Or like when it went from in the original movie, he's wearing a bulletproof vest, but by part 2 he's wearing bulletproof clothes, and it looks interesting enough. But look, it's a genre that I like, and given the fact that most of the movies, I was talking with people this year, like, I liked a hell of a lot more movies than I hated in 2023, but 2024 hasn't really been that way. I've disliked, not on purpose. I don't want to go to I hate it when people say like, you want to dislike something. I'm like, I don't want to go and waste 2.5 hours of my time. Like, even if it was like saying, because we're making shows and you get content out of it, that's not worth it. Like, making a video that talks about how I don't like this movie isn't worth wanting to just not enjoy 3 hours of my time and spend the money to go and see something and then,
And even with others, when others have disliked a movie, I've seen you push back if you genuinely thought it was a good film.
Well, I'll never understand. Like, I get it. Like, there's some YouTubers who make so much money off of like dunking on content that like it's probably like, oh, I hate this and that's awesome. Like, that's just not an approach I could ever have to something. I'm much happier to go. Like, my favorite movie last year was the Gran Turismo movie, which isn't. It's a movie about the actual story of the first person who won the Gran Turismo competition. That the game, based on the game. And that was my favorite movie last year. And the thing is like, nobody cares about that. Like, when you talk about stuff you like, nobody cares.
Right.
And I would rather talk about stuff that I like. But when it comes to movies, you only get so many choices a year. And like, sometimes you have to choose. Like, we went and saw Furiosa because we're not going to go see Garfield, because more people are going to want to watch a review about Furiosa than Garfield. That's just the way that is, and I would much rather you like it, but that's just not always a choice that you're going to have.
Did you want to see Garfield, Brett?
Not really, but
it's a safe movie.
Yeah,
they don't really need to prove anything with Garfield.
I'm not exactly the target audience for Garfield, so to be fair. All right, let's move on then, shall we? We got more to discuss here today. So I've got bad news for everyone. We are in fact doomed. So it's not a secret that on this show we've been known to dunk on Gen Z, millennials, even Gen Xers from time to time. Well, Gen Z is back at it again because they found this thing from Barstool Sports that supplements an article that I actually read like about a month ago that says 19% of Gen Z has brought their parents along for a job interview. Yes, this is a true story. I'm gonna read you. First, I'll read you the Barstool one, which is so it shows this graph that was on Fox News. It says during job interviewers, employers say recent college graduates have, and then it lists like all of these things that people are struggling with. 53% have struggled with eye contact, asking for unreasonable compensation. I've heard that like Gen Z thinks that like $250,000 is a perfectly reasonable starting salary right out of college. Dressed inappropriately, but then you go all the way down to the bottom here. Brought a parent to their interview.
That's so weird.
19%. Yes. Thoughts on that? So what's interesting is when I read the part about eye contact, I saw some people talking about like, well, if you think about what COVID did, destroying people's ability to socialize and to learn how to interact with one another. A lot of them in their more formative years. Like, imagine you finished your last 2 or 3 years of college, you know, social distancing and doing online classes and things like that. So that actually makes sense to me. It's just a depressing thing to make sense. Does anybody here have any reason they would understand as to why someone would bring a parent to an interview?
It's kind of what we were talking about, like the Chipotle thing. These people like don't know it. They don't know struggle, so they don't know how to do it anyway, any other way. You know, mom and dad have been there for every other aspect of their life, so why not a job interview?
Yeah. Like I can't actually imagine how awkward that would be to ask like my mom or my dad to come with you to your job interview. To come with me to a job interview. It says 1 in 4 Gen Zers have brought a parent to an interview over the past year, and roughly 1/4 have had their parents submit job applications on their behalf. So it really is just like, that should actually be the easiest thing, because one of the things that college is supposed to teach you how to do is how to do the boring, inane, useless stuff that they train drone workers to do, right?
We need to bring back shaming people, because people have to be afraid of feeling shame. People don't even feel shame. The idea that an adult would say, I need to bring my parent to this job,
the parents
that
say yes.
that should be immediately, an employer should say, you're not right for this job. You're sorry. No. If anyone ever said that, like, I mean, I've hired some people in my time. If anyone ever said that, my guitar tech needs to have his dad come with us on tour. No, you're not right for this job. Period. This is not.
And who are these parents that are saying yes to this?
That might be the bigger problem.
Embarrassing failures. That's who they are.
The bigger problem.
Embarrassing failures.
The parents who are like, that sounds like a reasonable request.
You failed as a parent if your kid cannot go to a job interview on their own.
Because you clearly didn't raise the child. Because it's still a child.
It's still a child.
Like, you failed.
And you know, I'm also almost just as bothered by refuse to turn on camera during a virtual interview.
No, I like that one.
But I mean, if you're asked to by a potential employer and they say no,
if it's a meeting, fine. If it's an interview, no. Like, if you're like,
how you
Zoom's
interact with
or
the
whatever,
person is important to it.
Yeah, because like if you're at a Zoom meeting and your company's cool with Zoom, most of the time people are like, it's fine if you don't have a camera on, because you can hear you know, maybe it's a mother that's breastfeeding, and that's fine too. Like, that shouldn't be a problem at all. But when it comes to the actual interview
posture,
turn that thing on.
I will say though, if the company refuses to do an in-person interview and they're forcing you to do a digital one, a virtual one, I think it's okay to keep
But it
your
may
camera off.
usually
then,
what would happen is
really
that that Zoom interview would then lead to in-person interviews, because it's a multi-step process.
Look,
maybe
what company, what they want to do is their business. I would never ever do that.
because what's happening too is they're saying, hey, can you turn on your camera, and you are saying no to that. So you're already right off the bat showing that you're not a very easy person to work with.
You're not a team player.
I
mean, what is it? And also, if you say no to a request as simple as let's see your face, you're a freak show. Like, you're a weird person, and you're probably going to be a massive problem at the company. So GTFO anyway.
There's a comedian who like purposefully goes on all these different virtual job interviews and just bombs them on purpose. And like the one, he turns on the camera and he like cracks open a beer on a job interview.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look, there's other things here. It says overall 70% of the respondents sought their parents' assistance during the job search. Nearly half said that they did so because they felt that their parents' input on resume writing or job interviewing techniques were superior to their own. That's fine. If you're going to ask for your parents' help, like, could you help me with a cover letter? Could you help me with this? Fine, I guess. That's not saying, will you hold my hand in the waiting room of going to an interview.
There's nothing wrong with taking advice or help from someone else to get stuff in order to help you get a job. But when it comes to the actual getting of the job, going out there and doing the meeting of the person that is going to hire you, you have to be able to do that on your own. You, again, getting everything ready, you can have a whole team if you want. I don't have any problem with that at all. You can pay people to help you get yourself ready, but you still have to go in there and be able to discuss the job with the person that's hiring you, so the person that's hiring you knows that you know how to do the job. And you shouldn't be applying for jobs that you don't know how to do, because then you're just screwing the person that's going to hire you, and you're screwing yourself, because you're going to end up looking like a moron, and they're going to give you a bad review, and
Right.
Like, they also mentioned that people like not dressing appropriately for interviews, that's becoming more and more common, because a lot of jobs are just, they've been getting into fights with employees who are just pushing back on not wanting to wear what used to be considered work appropriate attire, because they don't think that there's ever since Silicon Valley and and asymmetrical work situations and stuff like that, they don't think that decorum matters anymore.
But look at what happened there.
It's not that they don't think it matters, it's that they don't understand it. It's not a thing.
You don't think you think it's that they just don't get it?
Yeah, they're like, what do you mean I'm dressed inappropriate? Yeah. They're like, they don't understand. That's not true for everybody, but I think probably a large number of them, like when they've got like the graphic tee, right? And you go to a job interview and they're like, you're not dressed appropriate. It's like, what? It's NASA.
There's somebody in the chat. Don't get it. Somebody in the chat says pajamas are good enough for Walmart. It's good enough for this job. Look, that's actually true. I was at Walmart on Sunday, and there was somebody working in basketball shorts. I was like, that's the life. Right there.
That's okay if you're in like the garden section, I feel like.
Well, I mean, he wasn't. He was just on the floor. But like, to be fair, we don't have like, I can wear whatever I want to work, I suppose, within reason.
So are you saying, is it because he was wearing shorts that you kind of think is silly, or like, what if he had like cargo shorts on?
Well, no, he was wearing like basketball shorts.
So that's also why it's always so hard to identify who actually works at Walmart.
Yeah,
like when you have a question or you need help finding something.
He had the vest on, but
that's why I won't wear red if I go to Target.
Yeah,
so like people are gonna think I work here.
I worked at I have like I won't wear red at all because I worked at Target for like
really.
6 years.
I mistook someone for a Target manager once, and she got pissed.
So
she was wearing red in a Target.
If you're like, I don't know if they still do this, but up until a couple of years ago, like if you were working on the Target floor, or on the intercom, it would say like backup cashier needed at the front lanes. When it would say that, my brain would like switch on and I would start walking to the front, even though I didn't work there anymore. It's like, it was like a limbic trigger where I would hear it and I'd be like, must go cashier. Yeah. Like to this, it's like Zoolander. It's crazy. So be careful with that. And just, look, we kind of did this to ourselves with the way that we've raised the new generation. And I think that to Phil's point earlier about we were talking about that it's the parents that didn't say no and tell them, there are some things in life that you're going to have to figure out for yourself. And like, what else? Are you going to bring them along to propose to your significant other? Are you
not even figure out yourself. Just have to be able to do alone.
Yes.
Right? Like you don't have to there's not a lot of things in life that you have to figure out yourself. You can get help figuring things out for most things in your life. But there are certain things that you must do alone. Like if you want to go and compete, like if you any kind of individual stuff, like you can get the best trainers and have all kinds of people train you, and you can go with a bunch of people to spar and yada yada. But if you go out there and you're gonna spar with someone or do a competition or something like that, you have to do it alone. Those things, there are things that require you doing them alone. You can have a bunch of help to get ready, but you have to be able to stand up and say, okay, I'm going to go do the job interview because I know what I'm doing. And the thing is, competence gives you confidence. That's why I said know what you're doing. If you know what you're talking about when it comes to your job or whatever, you go in there. The person that, is going to hire you, if you really, really are competent, they're going to know, and they're going to be like, all right, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I wonder is the litmus test make sure your kids can once they're of age have flown alone, they've gone to an airport and navigated an airport on their own, right? You have to be able to figure out what time you have to be there. You have to figure out how to do how to check a bag, how to get your ticket ready, how to find the right gate and stuff like that. If you can't go to a job interview alone, I have a hard time believing that you can travel alone.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that kind of feels the same because you have to be able to make it through there's TSA.
A bunch of decisions that you have to make that might end up causing you what do they have? They blame it on ADHD now, but it's basically decision paralysis. You can't make a choice and you freeze up, and which just sounds like a pathologizing of actual just incompetence towards certain things.
These aren't natural skills. These are skills that you should have learned as a child, and if these children have had their whole life just kind of handed to them, if they never had to struggle for anything, they don't know, they don't realize, they can't even comprehend these these things like going to a job interview or navigating an airport. It's just their brain is, they've never been taught. And that's what I think most of it is, which is sad.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you were thrown into it back in previous generations, but we've worked so hard with technology to just kind of simplify our lives that we didn't realize what an effect that would have on the process of actually growing up and becoming an adult.
Most of the time when you try something new, there is an element of just being thrown into it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you learn a musical instrument, when you first sit down with it, you are definitely just being thrown into it because you don't know anything at all about, if you don't, especially like if you're coming off it like learning music, right? You don't know anything about music theory, you don't know anything about rhythm, you don't know anything about how you don't know the notes, you don't know anything. So you've got all kinds of stuff to learn.
Just doing is the best way to learn.
Absolutely. And it feels like you're being thrown in. So like going out, that's why the Nike just do it phrase and marketing thing was so successful, is because people took a second and thought, I do a lot of procrastinating and talking about when I'm going to do something, which actually gives you a dopamine hit if you talk about preparing, like all the preparation
we talk
stuff.
about that all the time. Like it's one of the best ways to stop yourself from actually accomplishing something is to talk about your plans to accomplish it.
Exactly. So that will give you that will give you all of the rewards in your brain. Just so the whole point of just do it is stop talking about it, go out and do it, go fail, because you're going to have to fail. Yep. So if you want to learn something, go mess it up, go screw up doing it, and you'll learn.
All right. What would you guys like to see? Cringe or cute of the day?
Cringe.
Cringe
first. Okay, cringe first. This one was just depressing. Here we go. This Hinge notification at the top is all you need to know. It says, my deployed Marine fiance just found out I'm pregnant, but hasn't been home for a year.
Ooh.
Yeah, here we go, guys. Wait, do you see at the top of the screen? First of all, they said pregnant. And then you see the Hinge notification that basically says that somebody matched with them on a social media app. It's very, very depressing.
So I'm sorry, brother, but that's not your girl.
I don't know if this is real.
Could be, but then it goes down and says, like, this was the photo, and it says, Austin liked you. Tap the post. There's so much that's fake these days. Did you see the one of the lady making the tea? Like she emptied the tea packet?
I heard about
That's parody.
that. I heard about that, and I didn't get to watch it, though.
It's parody. And what I've realized is, like, people make jokes all the time about women not being good at comedy. Women are some of the best parody people on Instagram and social media commentary and comedy, right? Because a lot of times what you'll hear will infuriate you, and then people don't look twice to see whether what they watched was actually real or not, because society has gotten so sadly messed up that it's very easy to believe that a lot of it is real. And some of the best satire is the stuff that's done in jest, right? And it kind of plays on the worst aspects of us, and women are really good at that on social media.
But I think it's not, they're good at it, but it's also like if I were to be like, Brett, you're so ugly, and then just kidding, and I just keep insulting you over and over, but I'm like, just kidding, like it's funny for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not really for anyone else.
That was very mean, Kellen. That was very mean.
Well,
did you see Caitlin Clark? I wanted to ask you what you thought about the Caitlin Clark situation. So I did have the clip of her showing up in her pajamas to a game. Did you see this?
Someone said she looks like a roll of quarters.
She does look. She looks well, a roll of pennies.
Who is that now?
WNBA player, the #1 overall pick.
She looks even taller than normal.
Is that the girl that got punched in the face the other day?
I don't think she got punched in the face.
She got
like
elbowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a really funny Babylon Bee post. There, it's like
she gets like thrown into the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the refs aren't calling any of it. The lady didn't even get a flagrant foul on it, and it wasn't.
They're like,
even
nobody
gameplay.
watches WNBA. Let's see if we can get them to beat the snot out of each other.
I feel like it's been in the news a lot lately.
It has. No, her story has been in the news because everyone's arguing about whether Caitlin Clark is the only reason people are watching, because there's another player named Angel Reese who they had a rivalry with when they were both playing college ball, and people are like, no, people care about Angel Reese, but if you actually look at the attendance numbers, like even though the team that Caitlin Clark is playing for is actually really bad, they're selling like 17,000 ticket games, whereas everybody else is doing 8, 9, sometimes 10.
And the thing is, they instead of like just taking the win and seeing how the arrival of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark has been huge for the sport, they're just slamming Caitlin Clark and saying it's white privilege.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, like, why do you need to find something negative with this? Nobody cared about the WNBA before this, and now people do. Like, that's awesome.
What's the saying? Rising tide raises all boats?
Yep. Rising tide raises all ships.
And I'm sorry, but what was that? Brittany Griner?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that was a whole different thing.
Come on.
So.
She was
but she brought publicity to the WNBA too, and that was not white privilege.
Yes,
Not
but
really.
we had to give away a war criminal to do that.
I'm not saying it was good.
I don't think people started watching Brittany Griner after that. If anything, they might have boycotted the games because of what we had to do to get her home.
All right, I got some cue to the day as well here, ladies and gentlemen. First one here from Cora Nelson says, "This is Buddy. He is the world's tiniest creature, but at least he's an adorable one," and he is
cute.
That is a very cute dog.
It's like a teddy bear.
Yes.
Aww.
Oh,
that's
I don't know
cute.
how I feel about the crown, the tiara. I'm against putting clothes on dogs, but I'm okay with the
bandana.
The bandana's fine. Clothing is a step too far. You're humiliating them. You're humiliating.
I have a sweatshirt for my dog.
It's awful.
It's so funny. He looks like Bill Belichick when he has it on. It's so funny.
It's awful. All right, let's do one more here, ladies and gentlemen. This one's from Corey. Says, this is the chipmunk that got into my house. I named her Mary because she is small and cute. And this is Katie, my cat, that brought her in the house. Mary was successfully caught and removed safely from with Katie's help.
Nice.
Yes.
Dude, my dog caught a raccoon the other night.
Did?
Yeah, it was wild.
Did you bring him home?
No, so he grabbed the raccoon by its head, thrashed it around. The raccoon escaped and ran directly into the fence in the yard that keeps the dog in and dented the metal fence and like broke the metal off the hinges.
Oh, jeez.
And then he got out eventually.
Remember when Bucko used to bring home like birds and
and
presents,
bunnies,
just like present them to you like with this face of pure accomplishment.
Yeah,
look at this
very
animal
proud.
that I killed. Yeah. Predators at
Look
heart.
at this carnage, human.
Predators at heart.
I've said it before and I'll
Hardcore.
say it again. They are no different than their large cousins.
Yes.
They are the same thing. They are just smaller. They would eat you if they could.
That meow
they
is a
do.
roar. People don't understand. Like, oh, cute little meow.
ever
I'm like,
listen
dude,
to
if
a
it was the
cheetah?
size of a lion, it would be a roar. They're roaring at you.
Cheetahs just meow. No kidding. Listen to
Really?
a cheetah. Yeah, you Google a cheetah. What noise a cheetah makes? It's a straight up meow.
Lions and tigers purr, but it sounds like a V8 engine.
Exactly.
Because they're so big.
I'm looking that up right after the show.
All right, we got a $20 one here from Black Pringle. Says, have you guys seen Generation Tech's YouTube channel? He knows more about Star Wars than Mary knows about Kardashian nude rituals. I think he meant blood rituals. I don't know if their rituals are nude. He would be a good guest for a Star Wars PCC. We'll look into it. Yeah. Look, we don't talk a lot about Star Wars. It's not really a huge point of interest. I think a lot of it is because for most people, the rose is kind of the thorn. Everyone's kind of over it now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bloom is off the rose, and nobody seems to really care that much. But right now, what is going on, guys, is they are advertising, they are promoting what is called the Acolyte. It is a new series from Star Wars. It was written and directed by Leslie Headland, who you might know as Harvey Weinstein's old personal assistant. But she's taking Star Wars in a new direction. And the reason why I want to talk about it is they are working, it seems, overtime to kind of destroy the brand. The reason I say that is because, well, on this promotional tour, the stuff that is being shown to everyone has nothing to do with the stories. It doesn't have anything to do with the characters. It's not anything that they're excited about that is happening in world. It's them talking about how the Acolyte is, quote, the gayest Star Wars ever made. And right off the bat, I have to imagine that these journalists hate them because they know that nobody actually wants to read stuff like this when it comes to promoting a show. They want to hear how these characters are awesome. They want to hear what's new in this new world. They don't want to hear about these issues when you're 2 days out from promotion. And I'm going to play this clip here so you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about. The issue is, I think, is that everyone hates these press tours and they've become obsolete in a fashion. Like I said before, the bloom is off the rose. People don't look at celebrities the way that they looked at celebrities in the 80s and the 90s. There is no mystery about it anymore. So these press tours are a lot harder to get people to buy into. So I want you to listen to this clip and tell me if this gets you excited to watch The Acolyte, which, by the way, guys, we will be reviewing on Thursday when Mary gets back. So here you go.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars. I think by a considerable margin.
They're so happy he said that. Like, this is great.
Great thing yourself.
Great publicity.
It's pretty gay. Let's be honest.
Don't they realize
Leslie,
that's
are
going
you-
to turn
how do you
some
feel?
people
Am I
off?
gay?
Are you,
Yes.
well, no, I know
Yeah.
you are gay, but I'm asking, are you
Why do they
excited
need
about
gay or
putting
straight?
this,
You don't need to
this is gonna
sexualize
be
it.
Yeah,
that's
like-
Always
point.
my problem.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure some.
Because nerds
Well, it wasn't until you made it a talking point.
Remember, there was a time when like a Star Wars movie that was about sex was a porn,
Yeah.
right? Like, or a Marvel movie that was about sex, that was an adult film.
And
Like, it was a parody.
Princess Leia, she was popular, and they didn't have to like make her do anything degenerate, right? Or she had this like appeal to her. But they didn't, there was no sex scenes in it, but people fell in love with her, with Carrie Fisher.
Here's let's finish this clip here. So, again, like I said, these journalists must hate them because they must know that this is what's going to happen.
It's a super unhealthy focus on sex and sexuality.
Yeah, that's all they know.
It
They're in a
really is,
bubble.
honestly. I personally think that it's a cult or religion.
They're making it a
religious
personality
Yeah.
trait when it's something that every human's done since the dawn of time. Like it's not unique.
And what I was thinking is, I was like, imagine, like right now, not because it would be outrage, but if somebody's like, it's the straightest show ever made. Straight people,
That sounds insane.
straight people would be like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like,
Yeah, what are you
I don't
talking
give a
about?
crap. Like actually,
I-
what do you care? Like,
Yeah.
what does that matter? It doesn't matter to anyone.
Yeah. I don't think most people even notice it. Like it goes in one ear and out the other.
Because
really.
the joke they make is they're like, it's kind of like when they say like every day is straight pride day or something like that. When you point back, like, why do you need a month or 6 months for this type of stuff? But the thing is, like, every movie is a straight movie. Again, and nobody cares. It's not a selling point for the movie.
Right.
It's not something that they would ever use to advertise to sell more copies of it. So why would the inverse be true for a different sexuality? It doesn't make any sense. It's got nothing to do with the story. And if it does, you're also limiting your audience because there is a time and a place for that. Look, there's plenty of movies and dramatic pieces that are made for streaming that have all to do with sex, sexuality, straight relationships, gay relationships, all that stuff. Star Wars isn't where you go to see that.
Well,
you go to see lightsabers and you go to see hyperspace.
Yeah, it's make-believe people who are fighting in space. What does this have anything to do with sexuality?
So here's the rest of that clip here.
Gay.
Well, some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Was this the fun element of?
No, I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly
You're offended?
into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the fits? We'd be like, look how gay this is, and then send each other a reference photo.
And are you telling me with a straight face that C-3PO is straight?
They're a couple. That's what I think. But this is more outward.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ask Filoni. Okay.
Look,
They literally referred to R2-D2 as he the entire time that there has been Star Wars, but now he's a lesbian.
He's also a robot.
It's ridiculous.
Thank
It's
you.
so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
There was a lot of discourse going around when Furiosa came out about the idea of the girl boss and the term woke and when it's overused, which for the most part, I agree. It is overused, and it's overly used as a descriptor for most things. These are the rare examples where it's 110% accurate, okay? And here's the other thing. We're going to be reviewing the show, but I'm through episode 1 right now, and from what I've been told, from what I read from Chris Gore's review, is that it gets really bad around episode 3, which won't be out for a couple weeks or so. But here's the problem. More than anything, it's boring. And that's a bigger crime than just about anything else. Like I can put up with super awful content. I don't like hate watching stuff, but if that is the course given to us while doing a review, I guess that's at least semi-interesting. There's nothing worse than boring. More than anything else. And the Rotten Tomatoes score currently reflects that because, first of all, they were talking about how the show is supposedly getting review bombed. There could have been some merit to that because the score was really low before it even debuted, which is always suspicious. But right now, the show has been out for several days. And what are we looking at here? We're looking at a Rotten Tomatoes score of, I believe it's 45% from the fans. So
That's pretty high, actually.
45? No,
No,
that's
it's not. Okay.
that's not good. 88 from critics because critics tend to be in the pocket of these studios, as we very well know. they're focusing on the wrong things. We all know, like, if you follow this, or if you're just on Twitter and you don't give a crap about pop culture or Star Wars, you probably at least saw one of the headlines last week where Leslie Headland, who is the head writer and producer of the show and director, talked about how there's no place for bigots and racists in Star Wars. And I'm like, man, this is a Wendy's drive-thru. What are you talking about? Like, what it is, it's the age-old technique of blame the fans ahead of time and get it started, so that way when your show inevitably bombs because you spent $180 million on something that looks like dinner theater, then you've got your ready-made excuse, because nobody is held to account at these companies. At least nobody of any level of power is held to account. When these shows fail, there are inevitably layoffs at the lower level positions, but you rarely see anyone of any level of any importance actually get punished for creating something that doesn't resonate with anyone. And I wonder, like, what would be the alternative if they wanted to promote this stuff? If they were really looking to do the bait and switch and pretend like they were actually making something worth watching, it would still be annoying, but I have to wonder, when you're marketing like this, how do you fix it? These types of interviews aren't working. This guy led them down a path that was designed to give them headlines that were going to make them look bad. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? Like, you can't send them on podcasts, because all the topics will end up in the same place. There's really no way to fix this.
They think they're original. They honestly, I feel like they think they're the first people to ever have a gay aspect to a movie or show. And I'm like, this is literally what everyone's doing all the time now.
I think this is more of a symptom of narcissism than anything else, because they're so focused on themselves. Anyone that's like, it seems like anyone that's strongly in the LGBT movement is really, really focused on their own experiences and their sexuality,
well,
and how
pronouns are
their own pronouns, how they experience this. It's very, very, very self-centered. It's very narcissistic. It's always some kind of, this is about me and I'm special and yada yada. They demand validation. It's all about validating them getting to tell other people how they want to be seen, and the other people saying, yes, we agree with you. It's all narcissism, and it can honestly be totally disregarded in most contexts.
Where did this come from? Because the people that you're describing, it's so many people, right? Like, it's all the current works coming out of Hollywood. It's everything you see on social media. Like, how did the world just get super narcissistic all of a sudden?
I think it ties back into
social media,
and the coddling.
Remember, we just gave that random Amazonian tribe the internet, and they got addicted to porn in like less than a year. They got addicted to porn and social media in less than a year. You didn't see that? Like a billionaire gave a remote Amazonian tribe Starlink, and within a year they were addicted to porn and social media.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, the way that porn affects at least the male brain is just like any other addiction, any other dopamine release. That's what you're getting. And if you introduce that to a population that has never had it, that has never seen, because, and again, this is the whole
and we will be talking about this more in the third segment. I was just drawing, she said, how did all this get started? The point was more that, I think social media and the fact that you're looking back at your own face every day, and we're very, very focused on our own issues rather than, and that's the problem. When you're making something like Star Wars, you are now the caretaker of something that means a whole lot to a whole lot of people and has established lore and characters and stuff that matters. Yeah. But when it's becoming about current day social issues, you've lost before you've even started. And here's the thing, some of the critics even broke away from them in a way. There was like one bad review from Rolling Stone. I thought it's really funny because they were calling this racist. So I want to read this to you. It says, 2 of the show's actors played Jedi here, Rebecca Henderson and Charlie Barnett is Yord. And basically they talk about Lee Jung-jae. He's an Asian actor who had to learn English specifically for this role. And they talk about how Yord, the character of Yord played by Charlie Barnett, has an unfortunate rooster haircut, and how Lee Jung-jae's character is from Squid Game, isn't fluent in English, and as a result his line readings can appear halted at times, which is funny because I watched it and I didn't actually get that interpretation from it. I thought it was perfectly fine. But the problem is that's my interpretation of it. Somebody else might hear it, and based on how they interpret the English language, they heard something there that I didn't. But he's not even allowed to have that opinion because he's being called racist for saying that when somebody who doesn't speak English as a first language is having trouble delivering lines in an impactful way. And within like 12 or 18 hours, they just pulled the review because they got so much hate from people online. So look, you can't win these days. And I've said a million times, somebody says episode 2 gets worse. Oh, I'll find out tonight before the review. Like, I feel worse for Star Wars fans than maybe any other group who seems to have not just lost out to people who are ideologically inclined towards their own needs, but ideologically inclined to then go out and try to harm the people that actively loved it before, much in the same way that they said to the people in the comic book industry, we don't want the 45 to 55-year-old white male demographic anymore. We're trying to court a new audience, but it wasn't courting a new audience. It was just showing a whole bunch of hatred and a lot of despising of people that are just I like the term the middle-aged dentist demographic is keeping the industry alive. The only ones who can afford to buy anything there anyways, but they hate them. So I feel bad for Star Wars fans.
Is that why they're advertising to like the gays so much? Because they're the only ones who are actually paying and like going and seeing movies anymore?
They're not, though. That's the thing. That's the joke, right? Is because it seems like most of this stuff is subsidized. We could get into a discussion about the concept of ESG in Hollywood and stakeholder capitalism within these firms. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day that would require a whole lot more information. But there's a lot of people that believe that in the absence of actually needing to show strong return on investment, they're allowed to be ideologically, forceful with their material.
Yep.
And that seems to bear itself out in the most in the biggest of franchises, meaning that like your Star Wars, your Star Treks, these things that used to be very, very universally loved and have great mass appeal don't seem to have that anymore. And I feel bad for them because like I'm watching it last night, and for the most part, as somebody who doesn't really care a whole ton about Star Wars other than just watching it from time to time, I don't feel any amount of anger towards it. If anything, I just feel boredom. And then when I see the really, really lame stuff, I just roll my eyes. But if I was somebody who loved it, if I was somebody who grew up and cared about it a whole lot, and I saw the way these things were going, and I saw the way the media was pushing it, I would be angry.
I think the reason, because I loved Star Wars, I grew up with it, the reason I think I'm not super pissed is because when you had the 3 episodes 7, 8, 9, it wasn't like this, like the Acolyte, but it wasn't impressive either. So it was kind of like,
yeah,
they kind of eased you into the disaster that Star Wars is now, just because it was so just boring, those episodes 7, 8, 9. So now any project, I'm really not that upset, just because I'm like, oh well.
Yeah, but they say the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is indifference. So that's almost worse. Like you're better off with hatred, at least then you generate. Like I mean, maybe that's the point. Maybe the point of making a bunch of the promotion for this movie about the sexuality of characters and stuff like that is because they don't want you to be indifferent. If they can't have you love it, they don't care if you hate it. They're fine with you hating it because that generates clicks. They want anything but you to just say, whatever.
But it's so honestly like. You got to remember, too, that they're just forcing, like you said, the dentists, that demographic, they're just forcing them away from Star Wars, which is their own loss, because now look at the most popular shows, like The Boys on Amazon, another Amazon one, The Fallout show, right? These are all shows that people are now spending their, time and attention and giving their attention to these new projects. So it's just like, we're okay, but you guys are the ones that destroyed the brand, and you can't reconcile that,
They still haven't made their money back on Star Wars, by the way. Disney.
Oh, really?
They spent.
How much was it?
They only spent $4 billion for arguably the most profitable and high class piece of IP there is, and they spent $4 billion on it, and they have not yet made their money back when you account for the fact of what they spent on each movie and the money this show cost $180 million to make, and it's only 8 episodes, and the episodes are 30 minutes long. After episodes 1 and 2, it comes out to several $1 million a minute.
What about the theme park? Don't they have a lot of Star Wars themed?
Well, they're talking about like return on investment, like through movies. So through merchandising and all that stuff, they haven't made their money back yet. It's gonna take time, and I think the problem is it gets farther and farther away from that as the IP becomes less and less impactful. Chris Gore often says that the biggest problem that Disney has ever created for themselves was when they turned Marvel and Star Wars into girl brands, which is what they've essentially tried to do. Is we've got the boys, now we want to market this towards women. The whole point for Disney when they bought Star Wars, when they bought Lucasfilm, and when they bought Marvel, was like, look, we have the Disney princesses. We have fairy tales. We already pretty much own the female demographic of moviegoers. We're good. How can we grow the other demographics? But then they bought them and gave up on the demographic that they spent the money on.
They think,
that's insane.
They think there will be a utopia with their fans when that's just not. There's a reason that guys aren't watching Pretty Little Liars. There's nothing they can do to that show to make it appealing for guys. It's just not made for us.
Brett, didn't
I watched?
That? Yeah,
I watched
that was like the one girly show.
Or like Gossip Girl, or like
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton just had a new season. So it's like those shows, like it's not made for us, and I'm okay with that. But
that's the whole point of having all the content to choose from, is that not everything is going to be made for it. But here's the thing. Things like Star Trek and Star Wars should be marketed towards the largest demographic possible. But there are plenty of women who like Star Wars anyways, when it was the Star Wars it was before.
Well, like the interview, she commented on the costumes in Star Wars. Like a lot of women liked it for that. It was like this unique kind of like styling that they did with the original 3 movies. Yep. And people will like the movie for different reasons. Just make a good piece of art and you're going to attract people. Like,
all right, let's go and do some super chats here then, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I just saw one come in from Dane Font.
Oh, no, that was on a super chat or?
It just came in.
What did he say?
All right, so from Dane Font, this panel looks like a poster for the college Barry Weiss was trying to make within the Weinstein brothers.
I'm offended by that.
But I'm offended.
I'm going to go back up to the top here. So Shane H. Weiler says, Happy Wednesday, Brett, Kellen, Phil, and Sara. Since there's only one lady, Women Wednesday is moved to next week. See Mary on Megyn Kelly later. Yes, you guys should go and check that out.
There you go.
I'm going to do 2 more here. Cleggy says, Happy Thursday, Brett and crew. Did you guys get banned on TikTok again? We were always banned on TikTok. We haven't been allowed back on TikTok. We were actually going to cover Trump going on TikTok
You should
today,
try again, though, see if you can get reinstated now that Trump is on there.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good idea. All right. Prince Lien says, hello, boys, and Coffee Princess. There you go. What would you prefer? Coffee lady or coffee princess?
It's ever changing. Depends on the day.
Coffee lady makes you sound like you're a Karen, like someone that's like throwing a fit in a Starbucks.
Oh gosh, does it?
I don't know.
I thought it sounded more like
you
a
coffee lady.
Like I work at like a journal, like a newspaper in the 1950s, and like we need a coffee lady. That's what it makes me feel like.
Serenka Production says, just watch The Acolyte because I hate myself, I guess.
True.
Yeah, that's at least I have an excuse. I'm doing it for work. Like
whatever you say.
And I gotta say, it's pretty gay, though not very homosexual yet, surprisingly. Yeah, supposedly it gets worse in episode
Isn't there
3.
going to be a Wookiee Jedi?
We'll have to wait and see. I've tried to avoid as many of the major spoilers as possible, especially when we forced to review it. I'd like it to not color my opinions of it as much as possible. So, all right, let's move on. I got an interesting question to pose for you guys. So the other day, I saw a very interesting thread on Twitter. It was pretty innocuous at first, and it just says, name an actor you used to like but can't stand to watch on screen anymore because of his or her political opinions are so ridiculous. And they say, I'll start, and then they list Mark Ruffalo. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. But my question to you guys is like, look, in the age of social media, where every celebrity is stupid enough to actually post their own opinions about stuff when they have movies to sell and books to hawk and albums that they want to come out there, does it matter to you when somebody who creates a piece of art has very, very vocal and different political opinions than you? Does it destroy your enjoyment of the things that they create?
It's not. Well, like the name that comes to my mind is John Cusack.
Interesting. Can you tell me why?
Because he's absolutely insufferable.
Is he insufferable?
On Twitter? And it's not his political opinions. It's just he's whining all the time.
About what?
You name it. I mean, it's about politics. But I'm like, if you lean a certain way politically, whatever. But that's not what's going on here. He's acting like a child.
It's not that it's not what he's saying. It's how he's saying it.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. How he behaves. How he's conducting himself.
Thoughts? Does it bother you when
everyone
people
knows how I feel about communists, right? And I'm still not gonna say that Rage Against the Machine's, not an amazing band. Like they are awesome. They have fire songs. They have some of the songs that like were huge to me when I was growing up. I didn't understand.
Hey, thank you. Took a while today, guys. Let's get a second one. Come on, guys.
But yeah, like I can still listen to Rage Against the Machine and be like, I mean, I hate all the stuff that they are for.
Yeah.
They're all for. They're totally extremist, leftist, pro-violence, and all the quoting Lennon on his guitar pedal garbage. But at the same time, like
they made good art.
The music that they made was
Look,
absolutely awesome.
Wendell Pierce is one of my favorite actors working today, and he's pretty insufferable online. He is. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't love Chris Evans as Captain America, even though Chris Evans is insufferable when he talks about politics. That's just the way that it is.
The people that are most insufferable when they talk about politics, I feel like they tend to be the least actually educated.
Oh,
generally.
that's kind of what it is. It's not that they have a particular stance on any issue. Like you said, it's their behavior, the way they're conducting themselves.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about, but they act like they do. And they get super angry,
or so frequently they're so committed to things that are politically correct, and things that are politically correct so frequently have been turning out to be wrong. So when they have a really committed, strong opinion and they're out there telling you how it is, and you're like, I know in 6 months this is going to be wrong.
Yeah.
I know in a year this is going to be wrong. And this guy's here thinking that he's clowning on me or clowning on people that think like me when I know for a fact he's going to be wrong. And we saw it happen with COVID a boatload of times. And that's part of the reason why so many people have such a distaste for it, because not only had this always kind of been a little bit of a thing where people were like, maybe Hollywood kind of looks down their nose at us when they talk about politics and stuff. But with Donald Trump and then even worse with COVID, it just got so out of hand.
That's where you started seeing, like, it's not enough just to not be racist. You have to be actively anti-racist. And I'm like, you're just choosing to get upset about something. Like, there's no fire here.
Well,
you're freaking out.
The actively anti-racist thing.
That's just one example.
The reason I point that out is because that actually specifically meant a thing. Like, you had, like, anti-racism is like anti-matter. So if matter is charged positively, anti-matter charged negatively. The same thing for, like, it's just racism with a different target. That's all it is. So we shouldn't be like, it's okay to be like anti-racist. Like, that stuff's got to be shut down.
I think one of the biggest benefits that I have is, for the most part, like, because I did a lot of drugs when I was younger, my brain is kind of shot. So, like, I'll remember vaguely that some celebrity said something really stupid, right? But it's not gonna, like, burn a hole in my brain while I'm watching them. Like, I'm currently working my way once again back through, or trying to work my way back through, Sons of Anarchy. And every time I see Ron Perlman, I'm like, oh yeah, he's annoying. Yeah. Like, he's always saying something annoying, but I can't point in my brain at that moment to a specific incident of something he said. I just know that he's annoying, and he said stuff that I know is untrue before, and that he's got a lot of bravado and self-assuredness when he's telling you you're wrong about something.
I don't have a problem with, like, liberals, like, even like Mark Ruffalo, who's super vocal and
I just
blah,
don't
blah,
care
blah.
about anything he makes. Like that.
Well, I mean, I liked the Marvel stuff that he was in. So, like, I don't care a whole ton when he's going off about his stuff, and it doesn't bother me that much, because it certainly doesn't bother me the way that, like, someone like the guys like Rage Against the Machine, because the guys in Rage Against the Machine are actual communists. Yeah. That's actually got a death toll. Like, that's actually murderous. That's like, hey, I'm a Nazi kind of stuff. Like, no, that is unacceptable. You know what I mean? Right. Whereas most of the people in Hollywood are not openly communist. They're like, well, we should be progressive, and they're probably just useful idiots.
Like,
and I can forgive that.
Yeah, I pointed out to someone, like, I was, like, rewatching Predator recently, and someone's like, oh, Arnie, screw your freedom. I'm like, bro, I don't care.
Yeah.
Predator rules.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like, I get it. And this comes down to the discussion that a lot of people have about, like, I don't boycott stuff either. And for the most part, a lot of that's difficult anyways, because it's very hard for me to be like, don't watch anything from Hollywood. But then I like stuff that comes out, and we review stuff that comes out. So there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. Do you feel like you mostly hear that about people who have woke politics, or do people say that about super conservative?
I mean, people say that, like, a lot of people can't stand Jim Caviezel. Because of his politics, but Person of Interest is one of my favorite probably my favorite television show of all time. He did Passion of the Christ. He's very, very openly conservative.
You know, it's another thing that I think that people don't mind. Like, if you're very pro stuff, generally that's less causes less of a problem with other people than being against things that they're for. So if you're like, if you're like, you know, hey, I'm pro LGBT, people will be like, you know, whatever, and they'll have their opinion. But if you're like pro LGBT and then you're attacking Catholics or attacking Christians, that's going to turn people off. So it's a lot of times people respond negatively when they find out that you look at things that they like negatively. If you just disagree and you like things that they don't like, you'll have a less of a negative reaction. Not that they'll have a positive reaction, but you'll have a less negative reaction if you're just like if you're promoting things they dislike, as opposed to if you're attacking things that they do like.
So focus on the stuff that you're actively campaigning to change.
It's not a bad idea.
That's a good point. Mark Pellegrino is an interesting case like that too, because he talks a lot about politics and anti-communism, and he talks a lot about objectivism and things like that. It's really, really interesting, and he's a really, really intelligent dude. But for all intents and purposes, he does push back on a lot of the things that Hollywood does. But he still gets a lot of roles because, you know, he does so, I think, because he focuses on the stuff that he wants to talk about rather than making it about other things.
It's also on us too. Like, if you are someone who is getting deeply affected by an actor's opinions, that it's affecting the movies and shows they produce, like, maybe just don't go on Twitter or mute that account. You know, it's like you kind of are doing it to yourself in a way. Like, if John Cusack bothers me so much, like, I should just mute him.
If you like, this is ancient wisdom. The Stoics knew it. If you take offense, you're complicit. You have allowed that person to upset you. If you take offense, you are complicit in the offense. You do not have to take offense just because someone said something, or just because you read something on the internet. They probably don't even know you, and they're probably not talking to you.
It's a little bit different though, like, because what you were saying, like in the 80s, right, there was no social media, so maybe you happen to be watching the news and they do an interview with a star actor and he says something really dumb. It's a lot harder to navigate that kind of phenomenon now, just because everyone's opinions are traveling with you in your pocket all day long, 7 days a week, right? So it does require more on behalf of us to, like, filter that.
I mean, I think both us and the actors should be doing better about understanding that, like, look, if you want to do this on your own time, that's one thing. But remember when Reacher season 2 is coming out, and then Alan Ritchson's doing all these interviews about Trump and stuff like this. I'm like, bro, do this any other time. Do this literally any other time. Like, most people will forget about it in 2 days anyways. And to be fair, that doesn't affect my enjoyment of the show. Even the stuff we were looking at from Star Wars earlier, that's not talking about politics in the real world. That's talking about the politics of the show, of what they're saying. It's the gayest Star Wars ever. That's not them talking about their thoughts on policy. That's them talking about the actual art itself. If you want to talk about policy on your own time, maybe set like a window aside. Like, look, for the 2 months leading up to the release of these projects, I am going to focus on just the promotional material and stuff that doesn't ruffle feathers. And that's, again, like you said, it is also on us to understand that, you know, with the power of 10 million voices in your pocket, you have to be able to filter them out and decide what matters. But also, these people are being paid exorbitant amounts of money to promote for these franchises. And this is on the studios for not saying, like, hey, shut it for a couple of months.
Yo, if I paid a boatload of money and someone's, like, you know, attacking the crowd that's likely, like, Reacher shouldn't be attacking masculine guy kind of things. He should be like, yeah, you know, the NFL is kind of okay, and, you know, I don't really like this or that, but, you know, I like football. And, like, he should just be like a guy's guy. If you're attacking Donald Trump, the guy that just got a standing ovation at the UFC fight this past weekend, you are blowing it, bro. You are blowing it.
And
you are dumb. What you're doing is you're doing things to appease the people in Hollywood that are going to give you jobs.
And the funny thing is, we're gonna have to see how much that actually affects it, because when Reacher season 3 comes out, to see if the numbers actually drop for that show. Because
I wonder how many dudes are watching it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and
like
see.
with the Acolyte, right?
We got a $20 here real quick. It's from Colby Hansen. Says, for me, it's a time frame thing. I can watch annoying actors' old stuff, but from the point they get weird, I'm checking out. I'm not mad. I just no longer care. Everyone is looking great today, especially Sara. Love the shirt. He's actually right. I have a lot easier time watching the stuff from before you knew what they believed. I'm pretty good at filtering it either way. It doesn't really bother me, but it's 100 times easier if all you're watching is stuff from before people had their social media political awakening.
Yeah, it's true. I wonder if that's why I didn't like Fall Guy. Because now that I know so much about Ryan Gosling's politics, like especially after Barbie, he used to be one of my favorite actors. Yeah. And like I watched Fall Guy and I just couldn't get into it, and you and Mary loved it. And I'm wondering now, I'm like, is it because I know what Ryan Gosling is like in real life and that he's probably insufferable and I can't separate that anymore from the character he's playing?
Yeah, see, I can just turn that off. I'm just like, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. That role rules.
You should.
That character rules.
Yeah, you shouldn't care.
Yeah, and it's the thing is like they're just putting themselves at risk by doing this. And it's one thing to say that the actors should do better. I think it's on the studios to tell them to shut up. Like, you're the one risking your money. They don't care. It's not their money that they're losing. The actor got their paycheck. Like, I would imagine there's probably a correlation too between the actors who are betting on big returns on good box office, like somebody who gets a higher percentage based on how well the movie does and how willing they are to promote the movie in a neutral way. Meaning that if you got a lump sum, you get a base salary, you're not going to benefit from higher box office, you're not going to benefit from good PVOD sales, then you can just say whatever. Who cares? But if you want to make sure as many people as possible buy this movie because you're going to see a stronger return on the investment of your time, then you're going to be more likely to want to stay quiet and advertise to as many people as possible. So it's on the studios, I think. All right. Let us go and. But by the way, I have a question. I have no idea what the hell are Ryan Gosling's politics. I know nothing about this.
I was just really turned off by him in the Barbie movie.
Well, I mean,
and like the comment he made about getting to work with a trans actress.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think we talked about it on this show. And it was about how it got to expand his like skills and his repertoire as an actor, and that's when he lost me.
See, I hear that stuff, and all I hear is just actors. It's like when actors talk about like you have to become the character. I just roll my eyes.
It's phony. They're being fake.
Yes.
I think that's what it really boils down to. It's not has nothing to do with actual trans people. It's just the fact that it's like you can see right through the guy. You know?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yep. The inauthenticity.
But it's trendy, so that's what you do right now.
I'm going to go back to Super Chats here. Again, I'm going to do my best to work my way through these without screwing as much of it up as possible. I'm going to try my best here.
I can read them too if that helps.
Do you have Corey Anderson's up here? Corey
Anderson. Yes. All right. Corey Anderson likes stegosauruses.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Shane H. Wilder, memes in bio.
Yeah. Yep.
Shane H. Wilder again. Let's see. Fumbled the bag. Sounds like you fumbled the ball. I'm not sure what that was in reference to.
When I said that the restaurant down the street fumbled the bag.
Oh yeah.
That's an actual term. I didn't fumble the ball. The term is fumbled the bag.
They really did. I don't know how they shut down. They were always like popping, but
let's do two more.
All right.
Corey Anderson.
Corey Anderson. I miss Mary.
Well, Mary will be back tomorrow.
Shane H. Wilder. Get a virtual Schroederhan or Billy bookcase.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
That's probably one of the IKEA names.
I'm not Googling.
Yeah.
I assume you know how they have all the weird names for their furniture.
Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, I had to Google. It's like X allows porn today, and I'm like, what's gonna come up when I search that?
So you're celebrating? You had it marked on your calendar.
Yeah.
Today's the day.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow's D-Day.
My goodness.
Let's do one more. From Cameron King. It's just a bird, and it looks like it's waving. That's all I can see there. So thank you for that. Cute. Let's go ahead and move on then, shall we? I think this is a good one to talk about because pretty much everyone here at least uses X in some capacity, right? Right? So if you didn't pay attention the other day, Elon Musk, they offered a TOS change on X, which was, of course, formerly Twitter, that is now going to allow for what we shall call spicy content on there, to which pretty much everyone who's ever used Twitter is like, it wasn't allowed before, right? Like, I mean, you can't click on anyone's notable page where somebody has like a large following and not expect to see just something you're not supposed to be looking at on that page.
This is interesting because everyone has heard of that saying how like the greatest tech innovations that we've seen is thanks to porn, thanks to pornography. So it's like maybe he's just sees how lucrative it could be. But I'm like, what kind of advertisers want to be advertising with those kind of posts?
Yeah. He lost a fair amount of advertisers back in November or whenever that was, and Disney pulled out of advertising, and a lot of them quietly returned afterwards. They made their virtue signal and then quietly returned after the fact. But this is what it says. In a recent update to its official usage policies, X says you may share consensually produced and distributed adult nudity or sexual behavior provided it's properly labeled and not prominently displayed. So they're half-stepping here.
Prominently.
Yeah. It says, we believe that the user should be able to create, distribute, and consume material related to sexual themes as long as it's consensually produced and distributed, X says in the update, which was spotted earlier by TechCrunch. It says, sexual expression, whether visual or written, can be a legitimate form of artistic expression. We believe in the autonomy of adults to engage with and create content that reflects their own beliefs, desires, and experiences, including those related to sexuality. That said, X's adult content policy, according to their policy, says balance this freedom by restricting exposure to adult content for children or adult users who choose not to see it. We also prohibit content promoting exploitation, non-consent, objectification, sexualization, or harm to minors, and obscene behaviors. So my question there is obviously the stuff about the sexualization of children makes perfect sense. Fine. It's a 13+ platform. That's a problem. That it doesn't
seems
even
like a loophole.
It doesn't even make you do the phony must be 18 that even a 17-year-old could figure out back before they were an adult, right? Yeah. And also it says after that, what was that point it makes at the end there? Obscene behaviors. That sounds unbelievably arbitrary. What one person considers, unless they're relating that back to the content with children, which I don't think they were, because they finished their statement before that it's a blanket ban on children being involved in stuff like this, because obviously they have to do that because it's fucked up.
The age verification stuff is just such a joke.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's such a tricky issue because I also don't want my identification online just so they can have a data leak and my information gets stolen. I don't really know how you navigate this other than banning it because you can't, unless either take the risk of having millions of people's personal information, or you take the risk of,
They're about to do that for people that are going to be verified, right? Because there's
I
a
think
bunch
it's
of people that are having a
optional,
bunch.
though.
If you're going to be verified and if you're going to be in the monetization,
you have to have your ID.
You have to have some kind of ID, if I understand correctly.
But I guess it's more so just the fact that how are you supposed to verify someone's 18 for this kind of content?
I have
That's why I think people should be held liable. I feel like that might be the only way to stop this, because there's no way you're going to ban porn off the internet. Let's just be real.
Yeah, but they have the protections. It's the same reason that Brett could say something really stupid and,
I do that all the time.
X doesn't get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
It's just we can't control what Brett says.
But I feel like it's inherently wrong.
That's the argument that they always have about whether you're a a platform or a, what's the other term?
A publication?
A publisher or a platform.
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that there should be, to provide a place where anyone of any age can come to and then be and also, by the way, we're going to allow porn.
Yeah.
But even if tomorrow, that's what I'm saying, though. Even if tomorrow they said, okay, X is only for people 18 and older, how do you, what stops kids from just lying? And
even when it's 18, even when it's Pornhub and it says you must be 18, you can't stop kids from just clicking the button.
There's no way to actually verify this stuff, right? At least not that I know of, to actually be sure that it's not someone faking it, right?
Right.
Right. So I think that's probably why X is doing this, because at the end of the day, if they say no, you can't do this stuff, people get around their rules and they post this stuff, X may be liable. If they say, look, these are the rules, it's okay, at least I think X isn't liable.
Okay, so you're saying if it was against the rules and it doesn't get taken down, they're more at risk.
I think so.
The platform is more at risk. Okay,
I'm not sure.
That makes sense.
But I think so, because if they say you can't do this, and then people do and they miss it, then they're liable.
Then
if
parents,
they say you can do it but these are the rules surrounding it, then the only thing they've done is like not. It's almost like, look, you've got a paperwork error as opposed to actually breaking the law. You know what I mean? It's like you filed your paperwork wrong. You put it in the wrong place. And not that it's morally better. That's not the argument I'm making. Yes. This is not a moral argument. I'm talking about the legality, and I'm talking about keeping the platform out of court and keeping their legal fees down, because they've got an army of lawyers that they're constantly dealing with. So I imagine that. I'm not, again, this is not some kind of like definitive
right.
argument,
It makes sense because then a parent can't come to X and say, hey, my kid was on your platform where there's not supposed to be pornography, and my 12-year-old was exposed to.
My argument for this most of the time is like, it is the parent's job to monitor the internet that their kids are using. Don't give your kid a smartphone. Give them a dumb phone. Or I heard now, what did Mary say? There's a wise phone now.
Is there?
Apparently there's a wise phone now, and that government intervention in these types of things tends to lead to more harm than good. But the problem is, again, it doesn't even say 18 plus. It says 13 plus. So if all you're putting between 13-year-olds and adult content is a blurred image that says sensitive content, it's not doing much at all.
Yeah.
If anything, it catches my eye when I'm on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, the curiosity. You're like, no, well, now I have to open it.
No, well, no, because I have the Casper Twitter. But honestly, like, I agree that parents need to monitor what their kids are doing, and it is the parents' responsibility, and they are liable. But I think the reality also, unfortunately, is that a lot of kids don't have parents that are going to do that can do that maybe even care to do that. Yep. So I think it kind of begs the question of like, okay, whose job is it to then intervene on the behalf of the child? And I'm not saying like it's the government or anything like that. I just think it's an interesting question to pose, because I do hear a lot of people often say the parents have to monitor their kids, but okay, but what if you're a kid whose parents aren't monitoring them? Yeah. There's still that aspect of it.
And again, like I was saying before, we gave a remote Amazonian tribe the internet. Within a year, they were addicted to porn and social media. So it infects the brain in a lot of ways. And like you were saying earlier, like it's like an assault on the senses if you've never seen anything.
Yeah,
like that.
So there might be some people that are familiar with the idea of the what was the word? I think it was saccharin.
Okay.
So the idea was like when you taste the strawberry in nature, right? You pluck it off the thing and it's regular strawberry, you eat it, it tastes like a strawberry, right? Then you take that strawberry and then you you mash it up and you add some sugar to it and you put it into a drink, and then it's even better. It's more of the strawberry. Then you take that same strawberry with sugar and you turn it into a concentrated piece of candy, like a lozenge or whatever, like the those sugar candies. Yeah. And you add more sugar to it. Then it's really concentrated. And then you take that and you do more things to it to make it more concentrated, which all that does is focuses on the reward centers in your brain. Right? It's just targeting in, it's honing in. And so then you get to a point where the finished product, after all these different incarnations, tastes nothing like the real thing. Yeah. And the way that people, the 99.9% of the young people that experience sex now, is nothing like the way that the people in the Amazon experienced sex before. Right. So you're taking the most potent of stimuli, sexual stimuli that you could possibly get, that the market can produce, and you're giving it to these people that have never had any exposure to it. It's literally like dropping heroin and telling them, here, try this. It's literally giving them that's the same kind of addiction, the same exact kind of addiction, because it is honed to go right after the most, like the things that are going to deliver the most amount of dopamine. And the reason we know this is because you've got decades of internet porn doing it. You've got all kinds of data to show you what works and what doesn't work, and they're making porn that does exactly what the viewer wants and stuff. And it's like, you give this to a tribe and you're giving them the most purified, like, most destructive way of imagining sexuality you can, and you're just giving it right to people that are totally unprepared.
And it wasn't just that. They were saying like the kids, they didn't want to work anymore either, because social media, they didn't feel like going and working anymore. And here's the thing, like here in America, that's one thing. You can give your groceries delivered and call mom and dad for money if you're short and you can't pay your bills. If you don't go and get water there, you don't drink, and if you don't go hunt, you don't eat. Yeah. So they're lazier, they're addicted to porn.
Back in the day, they literally had to like make it illegal for kids to go to work. They yearn for the mines.
I have a question. Is anybody, like, what is it when an Amish child is coming of age and they go out into the real world, Rumspringa, where they go and experience the world, and then they're encouraged to do that before they make the decision as to whether they're going to come back and rejoin the community.
I don't know anything about it, but I've heard.
I didn't know
that. Like, I would be interested to know if those numbers, from what I understand, and maybe this has changed, that a large percentage of those, they come back to the community, right? I wonder if that has changed in the age of the internet, if they go into the real world and they get access to social media and they get access to a phone. Again, I don't know, how that works and whatnot, but I imagine that it's a lot harder to go back to that life after you've experienced something like that.
Did you ever watch the show Breaking Amish? Mm-mm. It's about just that.
Oh.
Yeah. People who decide to leave and then their families try to like convince them to come back, and they want to stay in the quote unquote modern world.
Yeah.
I get how tempting it must be, because you're thrust into like everything that makes your life more convenient, is more fun, but you got to remember these kids like grew up with these good morals and values. So I don't think it's as crazy as it might seem, because instilled in them are these, the importance of family and working hard. Like all that stuff was developed before they saw the modern world. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess, is it 18 when they do it? Or
I don't know. Like I've only read about it cursory in the past.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting, and I just imagine that we're getting not off topic, but it is crazy how influential the internet is. And I always in my bad days, I'm like, the internet was the worst thing that ever happened to society. Look, I understand like the democratization of information and the ability to access things that were never accessible before. Certainly my brain, which is constantly asking myself completely inane and unimportant questions, which it can then go and find the answer to immediately. Mm-hmm. Like yesterday, I was having a discussion with someone about the phrase life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I remembered a discussion I had with someone about John Locke saying the John Locke theory that it was about life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. And I'm like, oh, I want to learn more about that. So I can go and read about that and waste an hour of my time, and that's great and everything. But there are so many downsides to what we've done with information and the way social media is done now that what is going on with Twitter is just kind of a small example of all of the ways in which social media can be bad for the populace.
Well, we've destroyed the idea of like, and this probably might be the reason that Hollywood's become so just terrible, that now that you can Google anything, you're not like exercising your brain in wondering and trying to figure out these abstract ideas, because you can just Google it. And I feel like it's part of your brain that, the creative part of your brain, if you're not working that out, just like any other muscle, it's going to get atrophied. It's not going to be as strong as it could be. And so now with social media and smartphones, right, there's not like a phenomenon like, why do the clouds look that way? And you wouldn't know. Maybe you could go find a book at the library, but it's so much easier. You're not really making your brain work at all anymore.
Yes.
Because you can just Google
you know what it leads
to? Probably destroyed the creative ability in people.
And it leads to you bringing your parents to job interviews because you aren't actually using your brain to process information anymore. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's a difference for me, like learning something like online. Like I point out all the time, I read a lot of really, really interesting stuff and threads on Twitter that never commit to memory. Not in a way that they do whenever I've actually read in a book or actually had that conversation in person. I commit that to memory. Stuff that I read on social media doesn't stick. Mm-hmm. Even though it's interesting and very, very important information a lot of the time.
I don't remember a goddamn thing. So
yeah. So there it is.
Our bass player Matt just reminded me of a session that we did that I totally forgot about. We recorded 2 songs. I forgot we performed them. totally forgot about it. He's like, remember we did this? I'm like, what? We did this and this. I'm like, holy crap, I haven't thought about that in like forever.
Dude.
So
my brain is my brain
Short-term
being shot
memory.
is my own fault. So that's nobody else's fault. Mine was shot not because of social media, just my own problems. It had nothing to do with social media, but I do see that phenomenon increasing elsewhere. So
Yep.
all right, let's do some super chats and finish this up, and then we will just hang out, guys. I want the second crisis party, just letting you know. Where did we leave off, Sarah? At Sorenko
Right after the
Productions?
little birdie. Yep. Sorenko Productions says, feeling like Will Smith with Brett moving Kellen's camera every time he moves. LOL.
Have I been moving a lot?
I stopped about. I zoomed you out a little bit and then gave you more
my bad.
free range to move. We're good. We're good. I am a compulsive fixer of camera shots during the show. It's like half the time I'm talking and I'm like, anyways, like what was I saying? Because I'm like trying to change the.
I just keep leaning forward.
I am a
guess.
horrible multitasker.
fairly fidgety myself, so I'm in a position to talk.
I'm a very bad multitasker.
It's funny, when I sit in Mary's chair, this is the only place where I stay still.
Yeah, because
Like
it
more
feels
conscious and aware of it.
straight
Yeah,
on.
you're right there. All right. From Black Valley Moon. New Down by Law, 90s punk band I'm in, album 612.
Okay.
Cool.
Sweet.
Check it out, guys.
Down by Law.
Phil's in a band too. I don't know if you
am.
guys knew.
I don't know if you guys have heard that, but Phil is in a band.
I
Yeah.
am.
All right. From, I
BFF
cannot.
dog.
Okay. I interviewed someone for a tech job once. The dude came in with car hats, a baseball cap, holding a can of Mountain Dew.
Nice.
It was so hard. Yeah, dude. That outfit goes pretty hard. Look, there's nothing worse that modern, I guess what you would call hipster culture is worse at than their stealing of Carhartt, than the fact that they have commandeered Carhartt as their own brand. You know,
I don't know what that
Everybody
is.
knows they ain't never done no work.
what once stood for like hard work and blue collar is now something that is put in the closet of somebody with like a condo in the city, and that's just wrong. Like that when I was back home in Minnesota 2 months ago, I went to the Mall of America for the first time in like 15 years. I stopped going to the Mall of America a long time ago because like, when you live by one of the biggest malls ever, it's not fun after like the first 10 times you go.
Yep.
Right.
There was a freaking Carhartt store. There was no Carhartt store at the Mall of America back in the day. That wasn't a thing.
Listen, this is what happens. They take something that people love, they ruin it, and then they blame those people.
Well, it's the
playbook.
It's
Yeah, I'm ready
part
for
of
this
it
to
is because
be
of
over.
the desire for wealthy people to hide their wealth. Like they want to look like they're not wealthy, right? Like they don't want to look like they don't.
Yeah.
And people don't get like.
And then people who aren't wealthy want to imitate that and
Yeah.
look like they are wealthy.
But like you look at the hipsters in Brooklyn, right? Like if you're a hipster in Brooklyn, you're probably making real good money to be a hipster in Brooklyn if you're gonna live.
If you can afford to live there.
If you can afford to live there, they are not going to walk around looking elegant, though.
Yeah.
They're going to walk around looking very, very simple. Most of the wealthy people that I know, like, wear T-shirts, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't wear expensive clothes. Maybe they'll wear expensive jeans or something like that, or maybe they'll have a bag that's expensive. There are tells, but it's still not like it's not like back in the first half of the 20th century where if you had money, you were showing it off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, at least you don't see like
They hear the conversation of like rich versus wealthy,
Yep.
or I mean the other conversation that used to have was like old money versus new money. New money is flashy. Old money is very much not in the same way.
Yeah.
So, or I mean, look at Zuckerberg. Wears the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I feel like he made that trendy. Like he was kind of the one where like that's when that started, at least
Jobs.
as far as I can remember. Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs always had a black turtleneck and slacks, and it was always the same. And he had more money than he knew what to do with.
Right.
Bill Gates is another guy that's like very plain clothes.
I wonder if it's like
even Elon Musk.
These internet rich people, like everyone after the .com.
Remember when everybody would make
because like athletes that are rich, that are loaded,
different culture. Athletes.
Well,
are
that's what I'm
different,
saying. They'll make sure people know.
But remember when people on social media would do like the fit check where they show you how expensive everything they're wearing was, and it would be like shoes this price, jeans this price, belt this price, and it's just like I could have saved some of the, like the reason I didn't like it is they would always have like annoyingly like utilitarian reasoning, like it was like pure sophistry. It's like, well, I wear the same thing every day because it cuts down on my decision making. Shut up! Just tell me you're wearing the same thing every day.
You reminded me of those videos that are going around of the girls in their Stanley cups.
Yeah.
And they've got like 15 different attachments for it. Like, yeah, dude, they're nuts. Like, so they have like a little bowl of snacks that goes on top. They have like a hand sanitizer thing that they strap to it. There's special ice cubes now that are made just for the Stanley.
I don't get it. I've never been that kind of girl, but
Yeah.
I've known lots of girls like that.
Wait. Ice cubes specifically
So
for Stanley cups?
They're hollow, like they're like ice rings, so you can put it and the straw still goes into the drink.
Oh.
Because it's like this is the new status thing. It's like not only do you have a Stanley, but you have all the bells and whistles, right? And
I saw somebody say like Stanley cups are now just Jeeps for girls.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to
I feel
put
like
it.
if I see a girl with a Stanley cup, 9 times out of 10, I know we probably won't be friends. Just
Mary
because
has
of
a
like,
Stanley cup.
But it's
well, that's
like-
what I
it's a
mean. 9
good-
out of 10.
She's the 10th time.
She's
it's
she's
a
the
good
one.
product that like I got one gifted to me for Christmas and
Yeah.
I use it. It keeps the water cold for a while. It's a great product, but now it's become like a status thing.
Yeah.
You know, and
Maybe it's not the Stanley Cup; it's the accessorized Stanley Cup.
yeah, if you see
That's
one
what
with
it
like
is.
that someone got and they'll like match, they'll have different Stanleys for like what outfit they're wearing that day and stuff.
I
People
like the
get
description
elaborate.
of the Stanley cup is the adult sippy cup.
Yes.
It's the
Those aren't adults. We already established that earlier because they got to bring their parents to get the, to do the interview.
For them, yeah. All right. Black Pringle said, sorry, Kardashian blood rituals.
Yeah, there was I mean it's also dorky.
Megan Fox did that too, right?
Yes. I mean it's just dorky when a Kardashian does it because they're not even trying to appear like part of like some type of unique subculture. They're just rich people who want to seem edgy. It's not edgy.
Tacty Platty, hey Phil, thanks for retweeting my Tim meme yesterday. You had great points on IRL last night about reality and ideals. Wish more libertarians were like you.
What were those points?
Reality. The left doesn't actually believe in reality. Their philosophy is a counter enlightenment philosophy. So they believe in feelings. So it's more like Rousseau. It's more like someone like Rousseau who believed that feelings were more real than reason because your reason was fallible. You could make mistakes by using reason.
But
your
you can never be wrong with your feelings.
You were never wrong about the way you felt was the argument, which is total BS.
Yeah.
And it's totally garbage. But that's the way that the left behaves today. Whereas the right and liberals behave in a way that is. That acts as if they believe that we can contact reality sufficiently enough to predict some effects.
I've been saying for a few months now that like conservatives are losing because they keep critiquing the left in a logical way for a group of people that are illogical. Like they keep, it's like you're not going to win that problem. They're
Not
in a
just
different
illogical,
world.
reject logic.
Exactly.
They reject the idea that you can make a reasoned argument, right? So right off the bat, they're saying, we don't think that we can sit down and discuss this honestly. That's the way so the starting point is they're not going to be telling the truth because they don't believe in the truth.
Yeah.
So it's a philosophical, what's the word I'm looking for? Metaphysical thing. So.
I did see the video the other day of the person, like some college kid arguing with this. It might have been Charlie Kirk about whether there was objective right and wrong.
Yep.
And then he basically pushed back on him and said, like, so you believe that there's no way to know whether what Hitler did was objectively right or wrong? And the person basically said,
well, they crumble under that because they'll make those assertions and then you present them with the logical steps that go along with it. And then they're forced to articulate absolutely monstrous ideas because if you take away what Charlie was doing is saying, if you don't have a God to give you morality, then there is no morality, is essentially the argument, right? So if there's no morality bestowed upon us from a higher power, then the morality that we all decide we want
you have
to
to
go
pick
with.
and choose.
Yeah,
Pick your own.
you can pick any perception of reality.
Exactly.
And that's where religion comes in, or any ideology comes in, not just religion.
100%. And if you can pick that, then it means that there is no right or wrong. Yours is no more right than mine is. Yeah. And so if there is no right or wrong, then that's how you get to,
that's how the abortion debate goes.
That's how abortion, and it's also how you get socialists that can kill a bunch of people and be like, it's fine.
I mean, that's how the abortion debate goes, right? It's like, what was it? I don't remember who it was like Bill Maher's like, yeah, I think you're killing a baby. But then it's basically said, but I guess that's okay, right? Because the rest of it is then you have to come up with your arbitrary line. Is the first trimester okay? How about the second trimester? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, like I hear a lot of people, and rightfully so, saying like third trimester abortion and abortion up until birth are monstrous. It's like, yeah, but for most people, they're like, okay, so then why that one? Like, I heard somebody make it like in a comedy bit. It seems like, can somebody tell me when the baby starts actually looking like a baby in the womb, and that's when I'll set my date, right? Like, when does it start actually looking like a person?
Yeah,
and then I'll set that as my, arbitrary line, because it's not based on morals.
The logic and for that instance that you brought up, the logic doesn't actually work for people like that. Like,
no,
it's just less graphic, so that's why it's less gory. It's less graphic when it's a clump of cells. But the logic doesn't. Yeah,
they don't. Well, they don't know. They don't know. They don't actually know what they're saying because they've never actually sat down to interrogate their own philosophy. They've never sat down and thought, what do I really think?
Yeah.
You know, they've never read a bunch of philosophy and said, okay, these are what a bunch of options. Was that?
Challenge themselves.
Yeah. Well, they've never sat down, read a bunch of philosophy, heard a bunch of different ideas, and then decided, I think that Schopenhauer's right, or I think that Nietzsche's right, or I think, you know, it's like they're told Marx is the one that says everybody shouldn't have to work. That's the one I like. There you go.
There's a $20 one here from the Rumbling. It says, I can't trust Mary's opinion on sci-fi since she doesn't like Firefly, so I will put my Acolyte judgment here. Cinematography good, B+. Story is dog shit, F. The dialogue seems choppy and feels like a sixth grader wrote it. Okay, I'll give you.
There are times when Mary's going to be right, but you can't trust her judgment on anything because she's a woman.
I'll give you a couple of. Okay, so first of all, as far as the cinematography, competent but uninspired so far. Not up to Star Wars standards, in my personal opinion, and not $180 million standards. Story is so boring, I can't even begin to explain to you how stupid it is. And most importantly, you said dialogue seems choppy and feels like a sixth grader wrote. Okay, I actually have a critique that I will probably go more into detail tomorrow. Every time a character delivers a line with dialogue that is unique to a Star, every time some character in their 20s says the word Padawan, you can see on their face that there's history behind that word, not in the world that they're living in, but that they, as a human being who chose acting for a profession, know what a Padawan is because Star Wars is part of the cultural zeitgeist. There is no immersion to the characters. It feels like a bunch of people who are kind of giddy that they've been chosen for something that has, at least at one point, a lot of cultural relevance here in the West. I feel like that's almost impossible to fix unless all you hire are the actors who were previously involved in Star Wars. And every time I hear them say anything related to the Force or Padawan or Jedi, all I can hear is tee-hee. Like that's what I'm hearing from them. It's awful.
All right.
Yoshimu Taro.
Review bombing is not a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Look, the reason I say it before is because the reviews, and again, I didn't know that this is not something that I looked into deeply, but somebody, like from what I saw, the audience score for The Acolyte was 48% before the show was even premiered on Disney+. I don't know how that happens if the show hasn't premiered to larger audiences. There might have been subsects that had gotten it early, like maybe it had. I don't think it was out in other regions yet, so maybe I'm wrong. But yes, more often than not, look, if you look at all of the videos that Star Wars account on YouTube is posting, the downvotes far outweigh the upvotes, which tells you the way that the culture is going right now. So I don't know if you're wrong. I'm just saying that like the timing on that was suspect. But again, it's not like anyone actually believes there's positive sentiment going on in Star Wars right now. That's not astroturfed.
All right, from Cora Nelson. I sent... Oh, did we skip a couple? No, I think you're good.
Was I in the right place?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I want to make sure because they review on these. No, it's for
okay.
Serenco Productions.
People became narcissistic the same way narcissists did. Everyone now has a magic mirror in the palm of their hand.
Yeah. I mean, that's
true.
Not an unfair estimation of this.
And maybe this is because everyone does, but I'm just thinking, I was thinking about when we were talking about this earlier, like mirrors, right? You said you have a mirror in your pocket now, but girls also carried little pocket mirrors for decades.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just because that was just a girl thing where every person has a phone.
Well, the thing is, like, the thing with the phone is it's not just that it's like, it's the fact that you get social media. It's the fact that it gives you the little dopamine hit every time you get a like, and it's the fact that most people like, and I'm not, like, my phone doesn't vibrate and I don't have notifications and stuff like that because
I get no notifications.
Yeah. But like most people that don't have like that aren't you know, whatever, internet people or whatever have their notifications turned on. So they'll get a handful of notifications in a day. So they're going to check, and it's also poking them. There's never been a time where you had a piece of technology or whatever in your pocket that was constantly poking you, telling you, hey, someone approved of that thing you thought. Hey, someone disapproved of that thing you thought. Hey, someone liked that picture of you. Hey, someone thinks you're pretty. Like, these are all like brand new things, and there is a physical, like, hey, there's a physical poke saying, check this. It's not, it's beyond just going to look. It's the fact that it's like, look at me now.
Right, or the absence of it can make someone depressed.
And and every app is asking you to give it all your information. Please turn on the notifications so we can let you know for something. Stay up to date, blah, blah. Constantly physically touching you, saying, hey, pay attention to me.
That must be why Gen Z and younger are so antisocial, because, like, if I was around people all day, like, in person, by the end of the day, I'm like, I'm tired. I just need some alone time. Now, you're never alone.
Never.
And so, like, no wonder these kids don't want to leave their house. No wonder they're scared to go to job interviews, because they're constantly...
They're not getting their licenses either. They're not getting their driver's license.
The phone, like, this is what made, what you just said made me think of this. Like, the phone is like, you're in a room with people that never leave.
Yep.
Right? Like, you're in the public 24/7 now. And
everyone's running for president. Everybody has to run for president all the time. You never get to be your truly authentic self, because you have to care at least a little bit what people think of you. Gone are the days when you could say and do things and not have to worry about a camera being present. And the world was better then. I maintain that. Oh, also, my favorite part was when MySpace did it. They even made all the notifications different colors. So they were like little different color pills that you got to get hooked on. The new messages was a different color than new comments on blog posts. That was different than new post on wall. That was
I wonder if they've done, like...
I don't remember all that.
Like psychology test or analysis on the way the phone vibrates. Like, I wonder if there's like a perfect vibration that, really catches your attention.
Maybe.
I
mean, even like, do you ever get like the tremor in your leg that feels like the phantom feels like a vibration in the phone?
Yep.
I still get that. Luckily, my phone notification has been off for so long that it doesn't actually trigger me to check my phone, because I wouldn't get that anyways. But yeah. All right, let's continue. Let's get through these.
All right, we already read the one from Dane Font. Rhaegar Targaryen. Last movie I saw John Cusack in was Chirac. Bad.
Yeah, I haven't seen John Cusack in a lot lately. Guys, we're getting very close to that second crisis party. Let's get there before we go. Come on, guys.
Come on. He played a libertarian theologist in that movie.
Okay. I love whenever a movie or a television show pays some sort of weird lip service to the idea of libertarianism. There was a Criminal Minds episode once about a libertarian ranch that got taken over by a guy who turned it into like a religious cult. Yeah. And of course they made the guy like evil, like super evil. Like he claims to be just a religious pastor, but really he's just like a child. He abuses children. He takes multiple wives. He's just a piece of shit.
Because he's a bad libertarian.
Well, that's it.
All right, from Black Pringle. Didn't clarify. Generation on tech often addresses the pop culture, politics, and philosophy surrounding Star Wars, not just nerddom aspect. Maybe a good fit, like seeing channels come together.
I'll check it out. Thank you for that notification or that recommendation. We'll check it out.
All right. Let's see. Are we on?
Shane H. Wilder.
I have no idea how to pronounce this word.
It's that IKEA furniture again.
It's just a 4-seat couch with a chase.
Okay. I was right.
I got a $20 here without a message from Seeker of None. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. From Gordon Shumway. Some corn sites make you take a selfie for age verification. Maybe Twix can do something like that.
I mean, but how does that verify age? Like maybe if you have like an ID card.
Well, yeah. The thing is that it's supposed to
Like
be your
that,
face.
okay.
What they'll do is you'll take your face, your ID, and they'll take a picture of your face, and then they'll use a computer to make sure that the face in the picture is actually your face.
2 weeks later, your face is used on deepfake porn on their website.
Bro, most people are like that's like. Most people's faces are already on the internet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you've been taking. If you're walking around and there's cameras everywhere, you're getting filmed. Your face is on the internet. So
that could either create a black market for people doing that for like minors, like buying kids alcohol, like, or Photoshop. I mean, that's not. I don't think that's really going to do anything. All right, from Cora. Are we on?
Yes.
Cora Nelson. I sent my sister, whose dog I sent you for cute of the day, a link to this episode. She was very offended that Brett didn't like the tiara.
I'm
Brett,
sorry. I don't like it when you accessorize the pets.
Don't lie about your dogs. They don't get offended.
The
Don't
the
lie
dog
about
is
your
okay.
animals.
She's still fabulous.
The dog was fine. I just think the dog would look better without the accessories. They don't need accessories. Stop putting your animals in clothes, ladies and gentlemen.
It's funny.
This is like a heated debate. All right. The Rumbling. I can't trust Mary's. Oh, we already read that one. That was a $20 one. From Urashima Utaru. People leaving reviews on their own isn't a quote-unquote bomb.
How can you review it if it's not out yet, is what I'm saying, is that that score for the audience score was 45% before the show premiered. Again, I'm basing it off of a cursory look I got at it because I read that and I saw that score before the show was even out because it came out at like 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. yesterday Eastern time. So I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that most likely the people that actually took the time to do that are right, or at least that they're sharing their actual opinions. I just don't know how those came in before it came out. Now, again, if it came out, if they staggered the release and it was out at a different time in another country and I didn't know that, I could be wrong. But yes, thank you.
Someone's saying that thing will take your eyes out. Are you talking about the dog with the tiara? Irish Punisher?
They're saying test screenings. Okay, so then test screenings. And to be fair, my point remains the same, that the score actually dropped after the show did premiere. So it's not like they got some big boost in their numbers where it was 48% before it came out and then it jumped up to 80%. It's sitting at like 45% or lower now. So obviously that was the actual public sentiment.
All right. The Manic Mustache says, random thought of the day. Phil looks like a guy that would start a fight with big words.
Like I
Sarah?
would try to fight the words?
A fight with big words. That wasn't the whole.
Like you look up something. Hey man,
I don't really know what
you
that
look
means.
cantankerous.
Sarah looks like someone that would start a fight with her bros would finish. Happy Wiener Woman Wednesday.
What? Okay. We've officially renamed it. All right then. We got two more here. One from Irishima Utaru says, I am saying a review bomb would be coordinated. Okay. I'm still confused. Look, I just don't know how any score appeared before it came out is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And one more from Shane H. Wilder who says, I just used that IKEA product to F with y'all. Okay, perfect. All right, guys. Before we go, would you hit the like button on this video, please, and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already. We appreciate it very much. Phil, thank you.
Thank you very much. If you guys want to give me a follow on the internet, you can follow me on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains. I'm Phil That Remains official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. We're going on tour this summer with Megadeth and Mudvayne for the Destroy All Enemies tour that starts August 2nd and it goes through till September 28th. If you want to check out our new video, it's called Divine. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon Music, Deezer, you know, the internet. And don't forget, the left lane is for crying.
We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do on Phil Thursdays when Phil is gone. We're going to have a hole in our heart
being
here.
a rock star.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're going to have to find a fill-in rock star.
I will be, good luck doing that.
Yes.
But I will be here in spirit.
Perfect. All right.
Call in.
That'd be good. Sarah.
All right. Thanks, guys. I am Lady Sells Coffee on X. You can also follow Casbrew Coffee on X at Casbrew Coffee. Follow us on Instagram, Casbrew_coffee. Going to start trying to post more memes on there. If you have any memes, always tweet us at Casbrew on X. And check us out on Casbrew.com. Thank you.
Perfect. Kellen.
Follow me at Kellen PDL on the internet.
Perfect.
Woo.
Fantastic.
Thanks, guys.
Such high energy. Calm it down.
All right. Guys, if you want to follow me, Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. This show is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would prefer to listen rather than watch the show. And if you want to follow the show on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook, and not TikTok because we were banned on TikTok, at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will be back with another episode tomorrow. Mary will be back. You should go and check out her appearance on Megyn Kelly when it comes out. I'm not sure if that's out right now, but you should go and look for it. Check it out and join us tomorrow for another episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.